It was a summoned beast, despised by the entire world. Yet the moment I summoned it, I threw my arms around it with unbridled joy and smothered it in kisses. At the sight of this, my classmates began mocking me one after another, calling me an idiot. Even my homeroom teacher, who had once placed such high hopes in me, cursed me furiously, saying I had wasted everything he'd invested in me. I just smiled and said nothing. Instead, I sold off every last thing I owned and scraped together enough to buy 100 pounds of monster beast meat, all to awaken the hidden talent buried deep within the little dog. I reached out and gently patted its small head. A contract notification rang out in my mind. Loyalty will never betray. Initiate life-bound connection. Without hesitation, I chose yes. In agony that felt like my soul was being torn apart, I let out a scream and crumpled to the ground. The classmates around me assumed I had broken under the pressure, and the mockery poured in. My school beauty girlfriend, Lu Ruyan, walked over as well. With a hint of apology in her voice, she said, "I'm sorry. The exam is the only way for people like us from ordinary families to climb the social ladder. Lu Liang, the spear knight, just agreed to team up with me, so I won't be going with you anymore." I got to my feet and replied calmly, "No problem." The simplicity of my answer caught her off guard, and the words she had prepared died in her throat. A flicker of being disregarded rose in her chest. She let out a cold snort and turned to leave without a second glance. A girl standing nearby shot me a look of contempt. She said, "He's obviously just putting on a brave face." "Ruyan, you didn't do anything wrong. Why are you even apologizing? He can only summon a black dog the size of a palm. What makes him think he's worthy of you?" But I paid neither of them any attention, because the moment the life-bound connection was complete, I discovered that the little dog had awakened an SS-ranked talent, gluttonous greed. It could convert anything it consumed into energy, grow without limits, and break through every shackle to evolve. It seemed the pain was well worth it. SSS-ranked talent holders were extraordinarily rare across the entire country. Every time a new one appeared, the nation took notice and provided full protection, and for good reason, given how terrifyingly powerful they were. I grabbed the little black dog and lifted it up to eye level. "From now on, your name is Hei Ming. Work hard for me." Hei Ming licked me, its face beaming with happiness. I tossed it a piece of meat. Before long, the meat was completely devoured. Consumed ordinary meat purification value adds 0.5, along with the notification sound. Hei Ming's body grew imperceptibly larger, and all base attributes increased by 1 point, and that was just from eating one ordinary piece of meat. If it could consume even greater quantities of food down the line, what terrifying heights might it reach? The thought made my heart race uncontrollably. What surprised me even more was that my own strength seemed to have increased slightly as well. It appeared that some of the energy Hei Ming gained was being fed back to me. So I spent just over 6,000 to buy 100 pounds of mutant beast meat. Then with a thought, I called forth Hei Ming. At the sight of the blood-red mutant beast meat before it, Hei Ming felt a powerful, deep-seated hunger rise from within. It immediately opened its jaws and tore in, frantically converting every piece of mutant beast meat that entered its body. Wave after wave of energy surged through Hei Ming as it devoured without stopping. Its size grew at a visible, rapid pace. In that moment, I felt improvements stirring throughout my entire body as well. Half an hour passed. Hei Ming's frame had surged to over 2 meters. All of my attributes had increased by 10 points across the board, a level that would stand out even among the best in any class. Hei Ming's near cheat-like method of growing stronger could help me close the gap with others at an incredible speed. With that thought, I didn't hesitate any further. I pressed the evolution button on the system. As the notification chimed, a terrifying surge of talent origin trembled from deep within Hei Ming's body. A torrent of black, specialized evolutionary energy erupted outward. Cells split, genes recombined, life leaped toward a higher plane of existence. Congratulations, your summoned beast Hei Ming has acquired the skill, Rend, and has awakened a new talent, Gigantification. Body size increased by 3 times, strength and defense increased by 300%, speed reduced by 50%. With this evolution, all of Haeming's attributes broke through to above 50 points, and this was only level 1, yet the attributes were already this high. Even top-tier summon beasts couldn't compare. Summoned beasts were divided into 4 tiers: low, mid, high, and top. The standard of classification was talent. S rank was high tier, SS rank was top tier. A summoned beast with SS rank talent had never appeared before. Afterward, I headed home with Haeming to sleep, planning to properly prepare for the next day's exam. The following morning, countless participants in the entrance exam gathered in the plaza. Lu Wen was going over in detail the key points to keep in mind when entering the dungeon. This exam brought together students from several top-tier high schools, making the competition almost impossibly fierce. Lu Liang, who had been brimming with confidence, was already drenched in sweat. Chenlin, are you really still showing up? You might as well just quit now and save yourself the humiliation. The one who spoke was named Ye Chao. Beside him stood Lu Ruyan, dressed in mage's robes, her figure graceful and striking. The 3 of them were clearly a team. I didn't bother acknowledging them. As the toll of a bell rang out, 4 bronze gates swung open simultaneously. Through the narrow gaps between them, waves of cold, eerie air poured forth. Every student wasted no time. They immediately examined the dungeon information assigned to them. Oh no, our second high got Burial Bone Forest. That's one of the dungeons with the highest failure rate. All the dungeons are roughly the same difficulty. What's there to complain about? You guys from third high got an easier one. Of course you have nothing to say. At this, Lu Wen quickly turned to remind the students behind him. Burial Bone Forest has complex terrain, with extremely dense trees and undergrowth. You must be very careful about monster ambushes. Stay alert to everything within your surroundings at all times. Lu Wen then produced something that looked like a wristwatch. This is a recorder, built by the machinists. It will transmit the points you earn inside the dungeon to the outside. Another bell rang out almost immediately after, signaling the official start of the exam. A girl in white armor, with long ice blue hair and finely sculpted features, was the first to step into the dungeon. That's Su Lingxu from our third high. She chose to enter alone. The more people in a team, the less the score multiplier. Those with real ability naturally go in solo. The countless spectators seated around the plaza buzzed with excitement, chattering amongst themselves. With a thought, I connected to the dungeon. A flash of white light enveloped me alone. I too chose to enter by myself. After everyone had entered, a middle-aged man of level 20 raised his hand. 4 water screens appeared, projecting live footage from inside the dungeons. Just then, a burst of white light flashed. A student from second high had chosen to voluntarily withdraw from the dungeon. The teachers from second high exchanged glances, then lowered their heads one by one in silence, aware that many onlookers were watching. Li Mingji's expression darkened. He stared at the water screen without a word. The image slowly shifted. On the screen, a lone young man was making his way through dense forests, surveying his surroundings. Li Mingji's expression turned to one of surprise. Solo entry? He then asked, "Did we have a student of this caliber come through yesterday's class change ceremony at second high?" At those words, Lu Wen didn't quite know how to respond. He knew very well that I was just an ordinary summoner. Yet inside the dungeon, after a brief moment of dizziness, I snapped to attention and swept my gaze around me. Suddenly, the sound of something dropping came from above. Without the slightest hesitation, my left hand rose and a staff over a meter long materialized out of thin air. A dark green serpent, as thick as a bucket, lunged down from above in an instant. Its head split wide open, revealing rows of densely packed, horrifying teeth. I gripped the staff, and from the other end, a streak of white light flashed out. It pierced through the dark green serpent's body in an instant. The serpent, its body cleaved in two, fell to the ground like a kite with a severed string. You have successfully slain a venom fang worm. EXP gained 5. At the same moment, the device on my wrist lit up with a notification, score add 15. Outside, everyone watching was completely stunned. Isn't he a summoner? But that reaction speed, that kind of agility that's only possible with very high agility attributes. Lu Wen was equally baffled. Though I had performed very well in live combat practice before, it hadn't been anything this outrageous. After slaying the dark green serpent, I set off toward the heart of the forest. Just then, accompanied by a strange, eerie shriek, small, squat, hideous creatures with oily green skin began appearing one by one. I recognized them immediately, goblins. The textbooks describe them as ferociously territorial, fond of breeding, and prone to cannibalism when food ran short. My rough count put them at 50 or 60. With numbers like that swarming me all at once, survival would be nearly impossible. So I called out to He Ming in my mind. In an instant, white light erupted, and a long, resonant wolf howl tore through the air above the forest. He Ming fixed its cold gaze on the mob of goblins charging toward it in a frenzy. Its four limbs tensed, and it launched forward like a cannonball. The goblin at the very front had its skull shattered on impact. The goblins to the left and right screamed, raising their weapons and bringing them down with full force. The sharp weapon struck He Ming's back with a loud crack and broke apart on contact. He Ming swung a claw hard at a goblin's head, and the creature's skull exploded on the spot. He Ming abandoned all defense entirely and slaughtered its way through as though cutting through an empty field. Even the dim-witted goblins felt instinctive dread coursing through them. They stopped their attack and scattered in blind, frantic retreat. I said, now that you're here, none of you are leaving. I directed He Ming's pursuit, while I myself moved toward the nearest goblins to cut them down. At the sight of this carnage, the world outside erupted in commotion. Wow, does our second high actually have a senior this incredible? His summoned beast being this powerful is one thing, but how is he himself this strong in combat? Up in Second High's viewing gallery, the first and second year students were buzzing with excitement. More than 10 minutes ago, when I had first run into the goblins, most of them had written me off as good as eliminated. Yet we had wiped out the entire goblin pack without leaving a single one standing. Watching this unfold, Li Mingji's expression lit up with joy. To have come this far this quickly, that's at minimum B-rank talent. And it's a growth type at that. The potential is practically on par with a high-tier summoned beast. Second High is finally going to produce a genius worthy of the school's name. He quickly turned to the person behind him. What's Chen Lin's score at right now? According to the recorder's data, his current score is 560. That puts him first place within our second high. However, third high Su Ling Shui is far more terrifying. Her score is 830, putting her well ahead of everyone else overall. At those words, Li Mingji and the other teachers all drew a sharp breath. It hadn't even been 20 minutes since the dungeon started. She already had a legitimate shot at first place in the entire province. Inside the dungeon, orbs of light rose from the goblin corpses one after another and merged into my body. My level quickly climbed to level 2. Mental attributes increased by a modest 5 points. This was the inherent limitation of an ordinary class. Even with level-ups keeping pace, the gap would only widen further down the line, until it became an insurmountable gap in the end. But I could rely on He Ming's feedback to narrow that gap, though my score had already reached the passing threshold. Acceptance into an academy was a foregone conclusion, but that wasn't all I was aiming for. At this moment, He Ming was happily crunching its way through goblin corpses. He Ming, let's go. The real hunt is only just beginning. Goblins were pack creatures. Since a unit of them had appeared here, there should be a nest nearby. Over 10 minutes passed without a single monster crossing my path. This only reinforced my suspicions. Though it was called a dungeon, it felt more like a unique world of its own. A space where all things inside didn't simply respawn, but operated according to the same natural laws as the outside world. Suddenly, several spears fashioned from bone came hurling down from above. Goblins poured out from every direction, howling and screaming as they charged with weapons raised. My expression stayed calm, completely unafraid. The staff shifted into sword form, and in an instant I decapitated a goblin. Moving like a one-man army with my focus locked in, I cut through the fragile goblins with swift precision. Every dodge was followed by a blade that took their lives exactly where it needed to. In that moment, I was like a butterfly dancing on the wind, except my wings were the size of death. The elegant, almost artistic quality of the combat had the outside audience roaring with excitement. Every teacher and student from Second High wore expressions of stunned delight. The technique is flawlessly refined, and the swordsmanship is even more impressive. Every cut lands precisely across the throat, an inch off in either direction, and it wouldn't be a clen kill. By now they had stopped watching anyone else. Every single eye was fixed on me, not moving away for even a moment. Luwen's mouth twitched. He had never once seen me pick up a sword in live combat practice. I had been hiding my abilities remarkably well. This is bad. Those are level 6 berserk goblins. 13 of them. Chen Lin is in trouble. Wait, there are flame goblins too. And frost goblins. Going alone to look for the goblin nest is just too reckless. A wave of worry quietly spread through the teachers. With these goblins' arrival, all the other goblins seemed to find their rallying point, and their attacks became far more organized. As the flame goblin began its incantation, fireballs the size of fists coalesced in the air and shot toward me. I sidestepped several times, dodging each one. Seeing an opening, the other goblins pressed the attack. I tilted my head slightly to avoid a bone spear driving toward me, then reached out and seized that goblin by the throat. I flung it straight into the path of a fireball hurtling down from above. A brilliant explosion of flame burst open, swallowing the goblin whole. I kept hurling goblins like projectiles at the flame goblins, pelting them from every angle. Oh my, you can do that? Every student watching outside was dumbstruck. Homeroom teacher Lu Wen was caught off guard as well, thinking to himself, I'm pretty sure I never taught that method of attack. By then I had the flame goblins thoroughly disoriented. If they cast, the spells hit their own allies. If they didn't cast, they were getting killed. Amid the chaos of the skirmish, He Ming also broke through to the rear flank, taking them out one by one. Out of over 100 goblins, only a handful remained, and they turned to flee. But this time I didn't wipe them out completely. I simply trailed behind the survivors at a leisurely pace, intending to follow them straight back to destroy their nest. I tracked the fleeing goblins into a mountain cave. Several small green silhouettes suddenly lunged from the rocky wall above. My hand tightened around the sword, and I swung it decisively in a single direction. A goblin's head and body parted ways and hit the ground separately. The remaining 2 goblins were caught in He Ming's jaws. With a sharp crack, He Ming happily swallowed them down. Suddenly, countless torch fires appeared around the tunnel's bend. My expression shifted. I immediately threw myself into a full retreat. Countless ugly silhouettes were crawling all over the rocky walls. My face turned grave. I bellowed, He Ming! Awaken! He Ming's body expanded at a frightening speed in an instant. It surged forward, crashing into the goblins swarming through the air. Goblins in every direction were sent flying in all directions. Ming brought one massive paw slamming down, crushing those beneath it until their bodies burst apart in a mess of blood and flesh. Just then, a deafening savage roar rang out. A grotesque monster emerged slowly, its neck thick with dense fur, muscles bulging, its frame as massive as a small building. It glared at Ming with fury in its eyes. My expression darkened. A boss. The troll took 2 strides and launched its charge. The cavern shook with thunderous reverberations. With every step it took, the ground trembled beneath it. Ming showed no fear and charged straight in to meet it. A black light flickered across Ming's claws as they struck the troll first, leaving 4 shallow gashes. Feeling the pain, the troll grew even more savage in an instant. Its 2 hands, each the size of a barrel, grabbed Ming's head and slammed it down hard. Ming's forelegs buckled under the impact. Blood seeped from the corner of its mouth, and it let out a pained howl. Seeing Ming being dominated, I quickly activated my class skill, Enhancement Arts, boosting all base attributes by 20% across the board. A faint white glow lit up across Ming's body. In that instant, Ming threw the troll off and sent it crashing to the ground, then sank its teeth in and tore away a chunk of flesh. The troll's eyes turned bloodshot as it activated its bloodlust skill. The 2 of them locked together, growing more frenzied with every exchange. I kept the enhancement arts going with one hand while using recovery arts with the other. The noise carried for hundreds of meters in every direction. Students who heard it were all deeply surprised. The bosses of Burial Bone Forest were at least level 12. Who could possibly be fighting a boss right now? A 3-person party, having heard the commotion, arrived on the scene, hoping to lend a hand while picking up some EXP along the way. But when they arrived and saw what was happening, they all froze, because the one fighting the boss wasn't a team. It was just me, alone. At that point, I drove the final blow with the sword in my hand. The troll's health bar dropped from 1 to 0. Throughout the entire fight, not a single student nearby dared to interfere. Liang and Lu Ruyan were among them. This little wolf, in just one day, he's turned into something like this. At that moment, another group approached the top-class students, led by Zhao Huiyang. He smiled and said, "I didn't expect our school to have someone as capable as you. I can see your summoned beast is pretty badly injured. Would you like our help healing it? We have a holy pastor on our team who can treat wounds." Before he even finished speaking, Zhao Huiyang got a kick from the cute girl standing behind him. I looked their way with a smile and said, "No need, but thank you." They turned to leave at those words. On their way out, they happened to glance at the score on my wrist. 5,320. 50 Yu Weon walked over, a faint flush across her cheeks, only to be met with Ming's blood-red pupils staring back at her with cold indifference. The look sent a chill straight through Lu Ruyan, as though she had plunged into an icy abyss. Her legs went weak beneath her. I didn't turn around to look at her. I was afraid I might fall back into her warmth again. Then I headed back into the cave and let Ming continue fasting to further strengthen itself. Once every monster in the cave had been consumed by Ming, a layer of energy cocoon wrapped around it. This evolution clearly surpassed the last one with the beast meat. I had no idea what kind of combat power it would emerge with. Before long, a pair of sharp claws tore open the cocoon of light. Ming stepped out larger than before. Its pupils had turned deep blue, noble and ice cold. It gained 2 new skills, Intimidate and Flame. Even its talent advanced by 1 tier. It was a transformation in every sense of the word. With an hour left until the exam ended, I mounted Hae-Ming and set out to look for other monster strongholds. 10 minutes later, Hae-Ming and I arrived within the territory of another boss, the level 15 Twisted Tree King. Outside, as he watched me walk toward the Twisted Tree King, Li Mingji couldn't stop frowning. He knew the Twisted Tree King's HP and attack both outclassed the troll by more than double, and I was only level 4. To bridge a combat gap this enormous, that kind of talent was genuinely rare on a national scale. Inside the dungeon, the instant my foot touched the muddy ground, trees with blood-red eyes began awakening one by one. Their massive trunks split open. The cracks spread until, with a wrenching sound, they tore free of their roots. Branch after branch thrust toward me like spears. I showed no fear whatsoever. I surged forward, and in an instant the blade was drawn. In the blink of an eye, 5 sword strikes flew out so fast they left after images. The branches were severed and fell to the ground. My eyes turned cold as I closed the distance to the nearest tree spirit in 3 quick strides. The blade drove straight into the crack of its open mouth. A massive flood of sap poured out. The tree spirit's health bar emptied in an instant, and it crashed to the ground. Watching their kin die before them, the surrounding tree spirits bared their thorns and closed in from all sides. At that moment, Hae-Ming let out a furious roar. One paw swept out and shredded the nearest tree spirit to pieces. Then black flames erupted from within Hae-Ming's body, cloaking it entirely, and set the tree spirit ablaze, spreading rapidly to the others. The tree spirits screamed and writhed in terror. Yet no matter how frantically they struggled, the black flames would not go out. The black flames were devouring their very lives. Watching this, even I was taken aback. I hadn't expected Hae-Ming's flame ability to be this devastatingly effective. Soon, the tree spirits were all reduced to ash within the sea of black fire. The black flames retreated back into Hae-Ming's body. For monsters killed by the flames, Hae-Ming could skip the step of consuming flesh entirely and absorb the energy directly. In a short span of time, Hae-Ming and I both leveled up simultaneously. My score shot up to 7,120 points. Just then, the ground suddenly exploded as countless golden branches as thick as arms burst upward. They coiled and constricted upward in an instant. A furious, ferocious screech rolled in from the distance. Hundreds of tree spirits parted to escort a massive tree king over 100 meters tall as it lumbered slowly into view. I quietly took a step back. Even though all of my base attributes had now surpassed 50 points, rushing in headfirst would still likely spell my end. I was clear-eyed about my own limitations. Hae-Ming, go at them. Strong enemies have to be handled by the summoned beast. A savage light flashed in Hae-Ming's eyes. Black flames roared to life across its body. It charged toward the central Twisted Tree King in its most powerful form. The black flames devoured everything. One after another, tree spirits let out agonized wails. I watched from my opening and moved in to reap the stragglers. Watching its kin die in agony one by one, the Twisted Tree King released a long, thunderous roar. Countless golden branches drove toward Hae-Ming from every angle. Hae-Ming threw all defense aside and sprinted straight for the Twisted Tree King's main body. A black light flared across Hae-Ming's razor-sharp claws as they tore down at the Twisted Tree King in a wild swipe, ripping bark from its surface. The Twisted Tree King's face twisted in rage. Every branch drove toward Hae-Ming from different angles in unison. But Hae-Ming's physical defense held firm, it didn't flinch. The black flames began slowly climbing upward. Panic filled the Twisted Tree King's eyes. It felt its own life being gnawed away, bit by bit. The Twisted Tree King was afraid. It thrashed desperately, trying to flee. but Hae-Ming let out a thunderous roar. In an instant, the black flames coiled around it like chains, binding it in place. Hae-Ming's assault only grew more savage. By then, Zhao Huiyang and the other three who had just arrived to help swallowed hard, expressions frozen in awe. The level 15 second-tier Twisted Tree King was being completely dominated. Seeing them there, I was somewhat surprised myself. Just then, the sound of a massive entity crashing down rang out. The Twisted Tree King had been defeated. White light rose from my body as my level climbed to level 8. At the same time, the score on the recorder jumped up by another 3,000. The remaining tree spirits I left to the other four to finish off. Miao Shanshan's mouth dropped open slightly. Racking up this many points feels almost too easy. Their scores shot past the minimum requirement for a top-tier academy in just a matter of minutes. Zhao Huiyang said, "I think it's all because of Chenlin's Hae-Ming. The sheer intimidation factor is insane. No matter how many of those tree spirits we cut down, not one of them dared to look back." By then, all the black flames had flown back into Hae-Ming's body. In its normal form, Hae-Ming had grown to 7 meters. All of my base attributes had broken through 70 points. My level had reached exactly level 10. This exam run was complete. The dungeon began force teleporting everyone out. One by one, countless students were bathed in white light and returned to the wide-open plaza. Cheers erupted all at once. The 7-meter Hae-Ming was crouched right beside me, motionless and imposing. He actually really did it first place. Li Mingji and the other teachers were flushed red with excitement. Absolutely terrifying 3 distinct talents in total. And he himself is frighteningly powerful in his own right. Racking up that many kills as a summoner, no one has ever pulled that off before. Lu Wen, you've got yourself one hell of a student.
Move out.
Come on, let's go. We're going to welcome Chenlin right now. Li Mingji, barely able to contain himself, grabbed the others and pulled them along. At the edge of the plaza, Lu Ruyan stood with an ashen face. She had been eliminated an hour ago and didn't even qualify for a high-tier academy. In her mind, it was all my fault. My summoned beast clearly wasn't weak yet. I had never told her. If I had, she never would have gone and teamed up with Lu Liang. With that thought churning inside her, a venomous look crept into Lu Ruyan's eyes. Across the plaza, Su Lingshu was surrounded by the teachers and principal from Third High. The teachers and principal sighed to each other. Second High really lucked out, producing a talent like that. Indeed, indeed. Su Lingshu, don't be discouraged. Your score of 19,500 is already exceptional. Su Lingshu smiled and said she was fine. Then she turned her gaze somewhat curiously toward Second High's direction, her expression thoughtful. Just then, the provincial rankings were released as well. Unsurprisingly, I topped the list at first place. All I could say was that Hae-Ming was truly something else. Its growth had no ceiling. And with each evolution, its combat power became more and more terrifying. By then, I had already started looking forward to my next summoned beast. Back home, I shared the news with my little sister and mom. The 1 million prize money for first place in the province had also arrived in my account. From now on, Mom and my sister wouldn't have to keep living so frugally. Afterward, I returned to my room to prepare for my first transcendence. The first transcendence required clearing a randomly matched transcendence dungeon. Looking at the panel, I pressed the button without hesitation, and I vanished from the room in an instant. Coordinate ID 08694. This is a world riddled with wounds, on the verge of total collapse. The last ember of humanity is on the brink of being extinguished. Will you bring salvation or destruction? Optional Mission 1. Eliminate 1,000 disaster beasts. Protect survivors within your ability to do so. Optional Mission 2. Assist the disaster matriarch in devouring all things to evolve. Participants, 10 time limit, 24 hours, cannot voluntarily return to Blue Star. Without warning, I materialized in the middle of a field of ruins. I frowned slightly, and without a second thought, selected Mission 1. You say the disaster matriarch devours all things, but what exactly do you think Hei Ming is? Just then, a figure came crashing through the glass door beside me. Amid a shower of shattered glass, a petite girl tumbled to the ground. A crawling disaster beast, its body bloodied and skinless, darted out from the darkened interior of the shop. Then it pounced toward the girl. The girl strained to reach a long knife lying nearby, but she was a step too slow. The terror of death washed over her. She instinctively raised both hands to shield herself. In that instant, a streak of sword light cut through the air. The disaster beast's head separated from its body, and it collapsed to the ground without its balance. I looked at the girl, who was still frozen in shock, and spoke. Hi, my name is Chen Lin. I'm Lu Yu. I was about to ask her about this world when a sharp voice rang out in the distance. Something's wrong, everyone fall back. Lu Yu's face changed immediately. She grabbed my arm and made to leave. Move or else. She never finished the sentence. A car came hurtling through the air from far away. I yanked hard, throwing Lu Yu behind me. I raised my staff horizontally and braced to take the impact. Under the enormous force of the collision, I was sent skidding back over 10 meters before stopping. Lu Yu's face turned pale with alarm. She pushed through the pain and rushed over. Are you all right? I steadied the surge of energy roiling through my body and shook my head. Then I looked ahead at what stood before us, a disaster beast standing on two legs, covered in jagged, menacing spines. That's a blade demon. We're not getting away. Lu Yu's gaze turned grave. Her fingers instinctively tightened around her knife's hilt. The blade demon closed in, faster and faster. The next instant, the ground beneath me suddenly dipped. Before Lu Yu could even react, a figure swept past her side. I drew my blade and surged forward to meet it head-on. Steel met the blade demon's razor-sharp arm blades with a crisp, ringing clash. The blade demon shrieked and swung its other blade arm toward my head. I shoved it back hard. Then I shouted to Lu Yu, give me your knife. Without a moment's hesitation, Lu Yu gripped the hilt and threw the knife to me. Killing intent filled my eyes. The blade demon seemed to sense the provocation and lunged instantly. Its two blade arms whipped in a frenzy. I didn't flinch. One hand with the knife, one with the sword. In the span of a few seconds, dozens of blows were traded back and forth, so fast they left after images. After more than 1,000 exchanges, I found a gap in its guard. I tilted my head ever so slightly to avoid a killing strike. Then my left hand drove the long knife upward, the keen edge sliced clean through the blade demon's arm. Before it could react, the sword drove straight into its heart, piercing through the hardened hide and punching out the other side. Lu Yu walked over, nursing her still aching hand, and said, "You're not from this world." I gave a non-committal smile and said lightly, "Would you mind filling me in on this world?" It's the miasma. The miasma had been going on for a full month. More and more people broke under the torment, lost their minds, and transformed into killing monsters in the end. Now the miasma had changed again. Blades, even mountains and rivers were being corrupted and twisted. Humanity had no idea how to survive anymore. After hearing all of this, I had a rough picture of this world. Just then, over a dozen people appeared around the corner of the road, all of them wearing expressions of panic. The tall woman at the front called out, "Xiao Yu, what are you still doing here? Run!" Before she could finish, the ground began to tremble faintly, as though a torrent was surging toward them. A mass of crimson, violent energy gathered overhead. Countless disaster beasts appeared on the rooftops of tall buildings, their bloodthirsty eyes fixed on everyone below. In that moment, the crimson energy formed a wall that surrounded them all and began closing in. Everyone swallowed hard. Xiao Yu, stay close to me when things start moving. After saying that, Luolu glanced at me, assuming I was from another survivor group. I didn't pay it any mind. I walked calmly forward. Hey, wait, what are you doing? We're surrounded right now. This isn't the time for one person to play the hero. I smiled and said, no, it's they who are surrounded by me. This many disaster beasts, if I kill them all, my evaluation rating is going to shoot right up. Hey Ming, in a burst of white light, the 7-meter Hey Ming appeared in an instant. A howl shook the sky. Hey Ming's pupils swept coldly across the tide of disaster beasts before it. Then it shifted into its gigantification form. Its body erupted to 28 meters, taller than some of the surrounding buildings. Hey Ming pushed off with all 4 legs. The ground instantly fractured, cracks spiraling outward in every direction, as Hey Ming launched itself into the mass of disaster beasts like a missile. Engulfed in scorching, searing heat, every disaster beast lasted only seconds before howling and dying. Everyone watching from behind was left utterly slack-jawed. Suddenly, a dozen or so disaster beasts launched a direct attack on me. Watch out! Luolu's voice rang out as she instinctively moved to back me up, but in the next instant she stopped dead in her tracks. I didn't retreat, I advanced. With one knife and one sword, I cut through the incoming disaster beasts like slicing through vegetables. In the blink of an eye, every one of them was slain. Luolu's mouth hung open. She thought to herself, he has absolutely no signs of corruption from the miasma on him. He should be weak. Suddenly, a possibility occurred to her. Half a year ago, while scavenging for supplies, she had encountered people who were similarly free of corruption yet equally powerful. Those people had destroyed the survivors' hidden base, exposing them to the disaster beasts, leaving them to be killed. When they saw the survivors trying to escape, they even broke their legs to stop them. A bunch of trash like you, and you actually think you can move with me? What a joke. That line Luolu had never forgotten it, seeming to sense what Luolu was thinking. Lu Yu quickly stepped in. Chenlin is different from those people. He saved me twice. Luolu drew a slow, deep breath. A trace of old hatred lingered in her eyes. Regardless, keep your distance from him. Right now he's drawing the attention of most of the disaster beasts. Let's use the opening to break through. But just as they moved closer, a bolt of lightning came crashing down without warning. Passage through this area is forbidden. A young man with golden hair and a book in hand stepped out from a high-rise building. As he began his incantation, spheres of lightning formed in the air. At that moment, my expression shifted instantly. I swung the long knife sideways. A dagger drove into the flat of the blade without warning. A woman of delicate, fine-boned beauty gradually materialized before me. Without hesitation, I swept my sword across her slender waist. But the woman vanished on the spot, reappearing dozens of meters away without a word. I pushed off hard from the ground and charged straight at her. Seeing this, the woman called out immediately, "Are you going to act or not?" The moment the words left her lips, a surging wave of flames erupted from within a building nearby. 2 figures collided, sending sparks flying in every direction. "You're really a summoner?" the hulking, flame-wreathed man said in disbelief. Scorching flames blazed toward me. My expression stayed cold as I drove the blade into him and knocked him back. From different directions, four more people stepped out. In Transcendence dungeons, combatants are forbidden from killing each other. Any violation results in immediate pursuit orders. But Transcendence dungeons run with factional divisions are the exception. To think someone would actually choose Mission 1. Didn't anyone teach you how to pick your objective in a Transcendence dungeon to maximize your odds of survival? The advantage clearly belongs to the Disaster Beast faction. Anyone with half a brain should know which side to pick. As the six of them looked at me like prey that had walked right into a trap, I simply said, "Have any of you heard this saying, the finest hunter often appears in the form of prey? You think I made myself this conspicuous to draw you here without having any plan to deal with you? Each of you had quite a lot to say just now. As a reward, I cordially invite you to meet your end, shall we?" A smile spread slowly across my face. The table is set, and every course has been served. Time for Haiming to feast. A savage roar echoed in all directions. Black flames stretching for hundreds of meters converged toward the black giant wolf, and in an instant its size grew by another 8 meters more ferocious and imposing than ever. In that moment, everyone felt a profound, bone-deep dread rise from the depths of their souls. Watching the black giant wolf charge toward them, a wave of cold terror shot from the soles of all four people's feet straight to the crowns of their heads. Their minds were nearly crushed under the weight of the fear. As Haiming's claw came sweeping down, 3 of them forced their minds to override the primal response and scattered in an instant. The last unlucky one didn't even manage to scream before the black giant wolf tore them apart. At the sight of this, cold sweat broke out across the faces of the remaining few. They had thought it would be enough to just hold the summoned beast at bay. But the summoner himself matching them in combat power was already unbelievable, and yet here they were. On top of that, the summoned beast wasn't just physically overwhelming and offensively devastating, it also had crowd control skills. Forget holding it off. Not getting wiped out within 3 minutes would be a miracle. Watching the black giant wolf surge toward the nearest target, the golden-haired young man gritted his teeth and hastily chanted a string of arcane syllables. A storm of raging lightning converged in an instant, condensing into chains half a meter thick that wrapped and coiled around the black giant wolf's 4 limbs and neck. "Take it down now, I can only hold it for 10 seconds. He hadn't even finished speaking when the black giant wolf's right claw flexed and snapped the lightning chains to pieces. "Impossible, this is my first-rank talent ability," the golden-haired young man exclaimed, staring in disbelief. With the enhancement arts I had applied, Haiming's power had climbed yet another notch. At the sight of this, everyone threw caution aside. Each of them unleashed their hidden trump cards. The delicate woman dissolved into multiple shadows and lunged at me from every angle. Then, out of nowhere, a torrent of ice shards rained down above her head, forcing her back step by step. A girl with ice-colored long hair was walking over with measured grace. With every step she took, frost spread across the ground from where she stood. The disaster beasts that drew near were frozen into statues without exception. She said, "I'll hold her off." The hulking man surged forward in a wave of blazing fire. The other 3 attacked simultaneously, aiming to finish me in a single burst. But just then, a thunderous shout rang out. "Listen up, small fry, look at me!" In an instant, all 3 snapped their heads around, eyes locked on the big, heavy-set figure holding up a shield. Then the black giant wolf appeared behind the 3 of them, who had lost all reason to their fury. The next second, one sweep of a claw and 3 became 12 pieces. Haiming then spun around. Its claw slammed into a nearby building. A storm of debris and rubble tore through the air, shredding the delicate woman's clothing and puncturing her skin. Haiming closed the distance in an instant, raising its claw to strike. Black flames swallowed her body whole. On the other side, a surge of glacial air erupted. Every building and living thing in its path was turned to ice. The hulking man was frozen solid where he stood. And so, of the 7 who had come, only one remained. Everyone's killing gaze turned on the golden-haired young man. The color drained from his face in an instant. He unleashed one last spread of falling lightning, then turned and ran. I sidestepped my way through every bolt. Then the long knife swept out. The golden-haired young man was separated from his hand and the rest of his body. I turned around and asked, "Do you know anything about the disaster matriarch?" Lu Yu said, "It's a being that emerged from among countless disaster beasts, one that was reborn with its own consciousness. Are you going to kill it?" I nodded and said, "I think only by killing it can the evaluation score reach its maximum, and it's the only thing that might bring even a sliver of salvation to this world." At that moment, Su Ling-shu walked over. "We meet again, Chen-Lin." Before I could respond, the big heavy-set man blurted out in shock, "You're that provincial champion? No wonder you're this strong." After chatting for a moment, the 3 of us grew more comfortable with each other. I learned that the big heavy-set man was named Luo Xuan, and I told the 2 of them about my plan to kill the disaster matriarch. Neither of them hesitated for even a second before agreeing. The 3 of us set out immediately toward the city center. Before long, we arrived at a large bridge. Suddenly, disaster beast after disaster beast lit up with glowing red eyes and came flooding toward us in a frenzy. Hei Ming immediately activated Intimidate, then charged headlong into the mass of disaster beasts, jamming the entire road. Black flames detonated. My expression turned serious. The disaster demon beast has spotted us. Su Ling-shu's eyes washed over with an ice-blue hue, like a detached deity. In an instant, a cluster of sharp, piercing ice shards materialized above her head. With a gentle shift of Su Ling-shu's focus, all the ice shards shot toward the swarm of disaster beasts pressing in from behind. Countless disaster beasts were impaled. They fell in rows, like stalks of grain being cut down. But more and more kept flooding in just as quickly. Every disaster beast in the entire city was converging on us from every direction. The pressure steadily built until I could feel it weighing on me. With tens of millions or even more disaster beasts across the entire city, we couldn't possibly kill them all, even if we fought until we dropped. So I shouted at the top of my lungs, "Go for the head first! Hei Ming goes straight for the disaster matriarch." At my command, Hei Ming spun around and charged straight for the bridge. A dangerous presence was emanating from the other side, the disaster matriarch. The moment Hei Ming reached the far end of the bridge, a dark red tentacle dozens of meters long burst into view. It cracked across Hei Ming's body and launched it into the air. Building after building was toppled as Hei Ming smashed through them. It finally came to a stop over 20 meters away. Hei Ming roared, sending a cloud of dust and debris scattering, then rose from the collapsed concrete and rubble. Its cold pupils locked onto the disaster matriarch before it with unwavering intensity. A colossal eyeball over 60 meters in size, and every one of its countless irises was fixed on Hei Ming. Hei Ming's black flames erupted in a ferocious surge as it launched its assault body blasting forward. With Hei Ming's full force charge, every building it passed shuddered and swayed. The eyeball's countless pupils all contracted in unison. 15 dark red tentacles lashed out toward Hei Ming from every direction. Facing the incoming tentacles, Hei Ming dodged what it could. For the ones it couldn't avoid, black light surged across its claws, and it struck them head-on. Metal grinding against metal rang out with each blow. Hei Ming was suddenly struck by one of the dark red tentacles and was sent flying. The distance it had struggled so hard to close was pulled apart once again. Before, Haiming had relied on the overwhelming physical power and defense of its gigantified form to press in close and dominate in direct combat. But now, against the eyeball's tentacles, it had no way to close the gap. Haiming let out a defiant roar. The black flames erupted without reserve. Scorching heat detonated in an instant, blasting outward in every direction. Haiming shot from its body with terrifying speed, the dark energy within burning through it at a devastating rate. It had chosen to go all in a final, desperate gambit. On my side, my expression turned grave. Through the soul link with Haiming, I could faintly sense that Haiming's life force was gradually fading. Done. Suddenly, Su Lingshu opened her eyes, now blazing with ice blue light. All sounds had ceased. Absolute silence reigned. Every trace of moisture in the air vanished in an instant. Countless disaster beasts crystallized into ice in the blink of an eye. Shards of ice flew in every direction. Seizing this opening, I made my decision without hesitation. Get to the disaster matriarch now. The only way to give Haiming a chance was to let it evolve. Before long, we reached the city center. A thunderous roar came from somewhere ahead. We broke into a run. In moments, I saw Haiming battered and on the verge of collapse, but its claws were still dug into the ground, unmoving. No matter how many times the dark red tentacles lashed it, Haiming refused to retreat. Inch by inch, with absolute determination, it pressed forward. At the sight of this, I ran straight toward Haiming and shouted, "Haiming, devour them all!" At the same time, I immediately cast recovery arts and enhancement arts. A faint white light spread across Haiming's body. Haiming's pupils trembled. It let out a sudden roar that shook back the dark red tentacles, then launched itself immediately into the massive disaster beasts. The black flames bloomed like a lotus flower and spread instantly. The eyeball sensed the problem and issued a command for all disaster beasts to pull back from the area, but it was too late. Wave after wave of black flames, saturated with devouring energy, surged into Haiming's body. Without hesitation, I tapped the button on the panel. Begin evolution. A terrifying black force erupted from deep within Haiming's body and burst outward, forming a black pillar of light that shot into the sky. Haiming's frame exploded past 100 meters in an instant. Congratulations, your summoned beast Haiming has acquired the skill Swiftness. Congratulations, your summoned beast Haiming has awakened a new talent, Indestructible Body. All attributes increased by 60 points. I let out a breath of relief. Another sweeping total upgrade. Haiming's pupils locked onto the giant eyeball. Every part of Haiming was reborn. Its hardened wolf fur gave off a faint golden glow, radiating a divine, overwhelming presence. The eyeball quaked violently. It was so terrified by the consuming, all-devouring aura that it couldn't even move. But then fury overtook it. It could devour and evolve too. It was the one destined to become the strongest existence. The massive dark red tentacles swept out together, even the displaced air thundering with each lash. Haiming stood like a mountain, utterly unmoved. All 15 dark red tentacles hammered down across its body. Haiming's golden glow trembled. Then the black flames fused now with the power of gluttony and gigantification erupted. A towering beast phantom composed of black flame, 400 meters high, materialized above. For a full kilometer in every direction, everything became a sea of black fire. Haiming drove straight toward the eyeball. The black flame claws condensed and swept down. Several of the eyeball's countless irises went dark at once. It let out a shriek of agony. Its tentacles beat frantically against Haiming's body and caused not a single point of damage. The eyeball roared as it absorbed the surrounding miasma, rapidly fusing it into itself. In an instant, its frame swelled considerably larger. The dark red tentacles began sprouting countless razor-sharp barbs. The two sides attacked each other without relent, shaking the earth with every blow. Roar after roar tore through the sky. Hours passed. On the ruins, only Haiming still stood. Every one of the eyeball's countless irises had gone dark. Its entire body was slowly devoured and consumed by the black flames, down to nothing. Su Lingshu and I both broke into smiles. For slaying the disaster matriarch and thousands of disaster beasts, the evaluation score we received would undoubtedly be extraordinarily high. The next morning, A notification chimed, and the three of us vanished from where we stood. Time has elapsed. Final performance evaluation now processing. Total confirmed kills, 8,560 disaster beasts. Disaster matriarch successfully eliminated. Congratulations, your rating is perfect. Class promoted to Summoner Swordsman. A unique class born of your actions. Congratulations on mastering a new class skill, Phantom Blade Convergence. Skill effect. A blade that exists between the real and the ethereal. Ignores all physical defenses of the target. Inflicts one instance of mental trauma. Looking at the panel, I was genuinely surprised. Bypasses physical defense entirely and directly damages the target's mind. As long as the opponent lacked any means of mental shielding, they could be killed in a single strike. This skill was absolutely terrifying. In an instant, a sword covered in intricate inscribed patterns materialized in my hand. My spiritual energy was completely drained the moment the phantom blade condensed. I shook my head and sheathed the blade. This skill could only serve as a last resort. I smiled quietly and opened my phone. After accepting friend requests from Luo Xuan and Su Lingshui, a message came in from Lu Wen. The recruiting mentors from the top-tier academies are arriving at 2 p.m. today. Come by the school. I thought it over. Nothing else was pressing, so I got up and headed over right away. At second high, Lu Wen was waiting at the school gate. The moment he spotted me, he came straight over. You're finally here. This time, all 5 top-tier academies have sent recruiting mentors to second high. This has never happened before. I followed Lu Wen to the office. He pulled open a drawer and took out a ring shaped like a coiled dragon. Inside is the city government's reward. It contains equipment and skill books you'll need. My eyes lit up. These were exactly the items I needed right now. The sword staff, an ordinary grade piece of equipment, had endured far too many high-intensity battles by this point and had broken. I took the ring and extended my focus inward. 2 pieces of information surfaced immediately. 1. Celestial Pivot Sword Staff. In sword form, the blade gains elite enhancement. Nothing can withstand it. In sword form, it also gains Wisdom Halo, continuously restoring spiritual energy with a 50% amplification boost. 2. Skill Book. Point blank. Effect. Instantly close the distance within 100 meters in a single step. Looking over the equipment and skill books, I was more than satisfied. Around 2 p.m., a black sedan pulled up in front of second high. 5 men and women stepped out. Li Mingji stepped forward with a grave expression, sparing no formality. Those qualified to serve as mentors at top-tier academies were undoubtedly 5th-rank class holders. Even a mayor would show them courtesy. They were escorted to the reception room. Ji Fei, settling lazily into her seat, asked with a relaxed air, "Where is Chen Lin?" The door swung open a moment later. Lu Wen and I walked in. Ji Fei looked me over carefully from head to toe. Not bad. With those looks, you belong in my Yonke Academy. Feng Yi, seated nearby, immediately frowned in displeasure. Rumors floating around are one thing. Don't tell me Yonke Academy actually recruits based on looks. Then he turned and directed his invitation at me. Chen Lin, choose my Qingtian Academy. Any 3 resources you want, yours as an enrollment gift. Only 3? That's practically a gift for a beggar. I'd say you're the one disrespecting the champion's ability. Chen Lin, don't go there and let yourself be treated like that. Li Mingji and Lu Wen watched the scene unfold with completely blank expressions. The atmosphere grew tense. The moment anyone moved to recruit, the other 4 would immediately close ranks against them. The situation spiraled toward chaos. Ji Fei drew a steady breath and suddenly looked at me directly. You've already completed your first transcendence. I assume you haven't started summoning yet? Come to Yonke Academy, and I'll personally petition the higher-ups to secure all the materials you need for summoning. Your Black Wolf has a growth-type talent, whatever resources it needs. Just name them, including my daughter. At those words, the other 4 fell silent. Even by their standards, these terms were exceptionally generous. This year, there were at least 10 candidates scoring higher than 20,000. Using up this many resources on one person here would leave precious little room to compete for the others down the line. Not worth it, the four of them quietly backed down. I shook my head and said, "Everything else is fine, but keeping your daughter out of it would be appreciated." Jifei's brow relaxed and quiet satisfaction rose in her expression. She said, "If you prefer someone more mature, I'm actually available too." I opened my mouth to clarify, but the words stopped just short of leaving. In the end, I chose Yunka Academy. Not because Jifei was particularly attractive, mainly because she offered the most. Before long, the day of enrollment arrived. Yunka Academy was a place where the most outstanding students from across the entire country were gathered. I picked a dorm room at random and moved in. The room was fully equipped with every kind of furniture and daily essentials. Just then, a sharp vibration came from the specialized device. A message appeared. Your summoning materials have been approved and arranged. If there's anything else you need, just let me know. I'll push for approval as hard as I can. After sending the message, Jifei leaned back in her soft chair. Beside her, Zhang Wuyu said, "Our resources could have been used to recruit 4 provincial champions. What we've given Chenlin far exceeds his actual worth at this stage. He's nowhere near deserving of this level of investment." Jifei just smiled at her and said, "New student trials begin tomorrow. We'll see then." I arranged the summoning materials across the floor. I stretched one hand out and spread it open in the air. As the summoning art activated, white light flooded the entire room. After a few minutes, what appeared before me was a silver butterfly roughly 60 centimeters in size. Its entire body gleaming silver, with 2 pairs of scarlet wings. Don't tell me this one is also frail and useless. I pressed the corner of my mouth flat and quietly pulled up its stat panel. Summon Beast Silver Butterfly, level 10. Strength 1, Constitution 1, Agility 1, Magic 1. Even weaker than He Ming had been at the very start. I shook my head. This had shattered every known record for the weakest summoned beast. But it doesn't matter. I will give you a limitless future. The silver butterfly drifted slowly toward me. I held out a finger to receive it. Assessment initiated. Loyalty 100%. Will never betray. Initiate lifebound connection. I pressed confirm. In an instant, the searing agony of the soul being torn apart surged from somewhere deep within. Congratulations, your summoned beast has awakened an SS rank unique talent, 10,000 transformations. Can take on any form and gain the corresponding abilities. Just then, the silver butterfly dissolved into a shimmer of light and took on my appearance. In a dull, flat voice it said, "Master, after getting a basic understanding of my abilities, I finally realized just how powerful 10,000 transformations truly is." I opened the box. Inside lay piece after piece of battle armor components. I pointed at them for the silver butterfly while reaching out with my mind to communicate. The silver butterfly gave a small nod, dissolved into glowing light, and wrapped itself around my arm. In an instant, silver armor materialized and slowly covered my entire body. I didn't feel the slightest discomfort or weight, as though the armor had always been a natural part of me. I was thoroughly satisfied. 10,000 transformations came with the ability to increase hardness by absorbing and fusing with metals. Without a doubt, it was a talent that could keep growing stronger indefinitely, just like gluttonous greed. With that thought, I decided to start developing the silver butterfly right away. I sent Jifei a message telling her I needed metal materials with specific elemental properties. The items arrived in just half an hour. A notification came through all rare metallic minerals with different properties, every single one a precious resource. Back in my room, I had the silver butterfly begin fusing. Before long, the armor covering my body became extraordinarily hard. Even a second Transcendence class holder would struggle to damage it. The armor's weight reached 5 tons, though it had no effect on me whatsoever. But if it landed on an enemy, it would be like having a mountain dropped on them. I stepped into the common area. The 3 roommates who had heard the commotion looked over in surprise. One of the young men came forward and said, "Hey, I'm Fengyi, second place in Qingyuan province. Pulling first place in the province with an ordinary class is seriously impressive." The cold-faced young man shot back with disdain. "Isn't it just because you got lucky and ended up with a strong summoned beast?" He was the second Transcendence person in Longshe province, with an exam score of 23,000. He continued, "You only got first place because your province happened to have no truly elite talents. Looks like your province is completely lacking in anyone remarkable." Fengyi smiled lightly and said, "I think the very fact that he got a powerful summoned beast to answer his call says something special about Chen Lin." Just as the two of them seemed on the verge of arguing, a voice rang out across the entire academy. "All new student cadets, bring your weapons and equipment and assemble immediately at Yonko Plaza." Cao Yang, who was sitting on the couch, said, "Looks like the new student tournament has been moved up by half a month, and the mutant beasts outside the city are growing in numbers. The academy plans to have us take on the task of clearing them out." I fell silent after hearing that. My mind drifted back to the world inside that Transcendence dungeon. I hadn't expected Blue Star to face the same kind of crisis so soon. The cold-faced young man said, "Perfect timing. Chen Lin, I'm going to outrank you. I'm more deserving of that first-place champion title than you are." Watching his arrogant expression, I smiled. I was going to outrank all of them. Out on Yonkwei Plaza, new cadets gathered one by one. The dean let out a sigh and said, "The top 100 by ranking will go outside the city to clear mutant beasts' rapid growth under the pressure of life and death." The secretary behind him gave a nod, and tablet in hand announced, "The new student tournament originally scheduled for half a month from now will be held immediately. You will enter a large-scale dungeon ranging from level 20 to 30, Rift Canyon. The results of this new student tournament will determine the distribution of resources you receive going forward." After the announcement, the dungeon gate slowly swung open. A wave of oppressive energy rolled out across the entire plaza. Some people's legs went weak beneath them, their lips trembling faintly. "You're joking, I haven't even done my first Transcendence yet. How are we supposed to handle this?" Just then I spotted the towering Luo Xuan jogging over with a short-haired, gray-eyed girl. He had mentioned before that he wanted to enroll in Yonke Academy just like me. I had thought he was just saying that apparently he meant it. "This is my little sister, Luo Ning," I said. "Hello?" Luo Ning shyly ducked behind her brother, her voice barely above a whisper. I sighed quietly and sent them both a team invite. Seeing me team up with others who might slow me down, the cold-faced young man frowned slightly. Before we entered the dungeon, he said coldly, "Try not to lose too badly." I didn't bother responding. Before long, all the cadets entered the dungeon. A mentor raised a hand and cast a water screen projection. Rift Canyon spanned several hundred kilometers of vast, labyrinthine expanse. The moment the 3 of us stepped inside, roars erupted straight ahead. Good a chance to test my current strength. With a thought, a flash of white light appeared, and the silver butterfly materialized beside me. The silver armor wrapped around my entire body. I gripped the celestial pivot sword staff in my right hand. Then I drew the silver warblade from my back and stamped hard into the ground. My figure appeared in front of a monster dozens of meters away in an instant. A skill originally meant to save my life, and I was using it to close distance on enemies. The celestial pivot sword staff swung out in a flash, slicing through several monsters as smoothly as cutting through tofu. Without breaking momentum, I became a blur of afterimages and carved straight through the entire pack. Nearly every monster was cut down with a look of blank confusion before they even had a chance to react. Watching this unfold, Luo Xuan shouted with excitement, "Ningbro is incredible, they don't have to do a thing, and the experience just keeps going up." Outside, the instructors watching were stunned. That speed and damage output, it was almost on par with hidden close combat classes. These base attributes make no sense. Even if Chen Lin were second Transcendence, he shouldn't have close combat power anywhere near this level. At that point, one of the instructors spoke up. Could it be that Silver Butterfly Chen Lin's second summoned beast, a summoned beast that can transform into a weapon that's unheard of? Even the Dean, with all his knowledge and experience, looked somewhat taken aback.
Glaring at Jay's unbelievably smug expression,
she said,
Right now,
over a dozen people have higher scores than Chen Lin. Teaming up yields very few points. He's your future son-in-law. You know what good does it do you if he looks bad? Jifei was just about to say something when she got a smack on the back of the head. Inside the dungeon, my silver armor was already splattered with blood. Every one of these level 20 monsters fell to a single hit. It appeared I had already reached the peak of the second Transcendence tier. Just then, waves of negative emotions flooded my mind, trying to seize control and compel me to end my own life. Noticing that I had gone completely still, Luo Xuan called out urgently, shouting, "Pull your domain back, quick!" Well aware of just how unsettling her talent was, Luo Ning looked flustered and hastily withdrew the domain. I smiled and reassured her. It's fine, none of that had any effect on me. I glanced at the recorder. Only 120 points had been earned so far. That pace was far too slow. To grow stronger quickly, I had to take first place. Both the Silver Butterfly and Hei Ming needed enormous amounts of resources. With that thought, I let my mind stir. In a burst of white light, a massive and ferocious black wolf appeared, its terrifying howl shaking the entire canyon. The first glimpse of Hei Ming made Luo Ning, who had never seen it before, flinch and shrink back behind me. I gave Hei Ming its order, "Go eat every last monster in this canyon." At the command, Hei Ming's eyes turned fierce, and it charged toward the depths of the canyon. Before long, the recorder on my wrist began chiming continuously as the score climbed higher and higher. I set off down another path to keep hunting monsters. Far away, a young woman swept a dark crimson thunder dragon down onto the massive monsters below. The ground shattered the instant it took the hit. Dark crimson lightning erupted and raged across a 100-meter radius, annihilating every monster in its path. The young woman looked at the carnage with an unsatisfied expression. These trash weren't even worth her time. Watching her sister lose control again, Luo Lan wore a look of weary resignation. Suddenly, a heart-stopping aura surged toward them, bringing a wave of scorching heat. Before she could even react, she saw Luo Hongying's eyes blaze with battle hunger. Violent, dark crimson lightning erupted in an instant, coiling and writhing around the black spear in her hand, at the sight of the black-flamed giant wolf charging toward her. The mere sight of those eyes was enough to make fear creep through her entire body. Yet the beautiful expression on Luo Hongying's face quickly gave way to something wild. and she charged straight at the wolf. Watching her sister rush in without a shred of hesitation, Luo Lan swiftly and deftly layered on multiple strength buffs and protective wards, a routine she had performed countless times. With those enhancements in place, their combined fighting power doubled instantly. When the two sides collided, the force of the impact sent a shockwave surging outward in every direction. Staring at the black giant wolf radiating golden light completely unharmed, Luo Hongjing's expression froze. That strike reached third transcendence power. How could it possibly walk away without a scratch? Heiming looked coldly down at the human who had attacked it without any reason, and its claws swept out in an instant. Under the terrifying force, 3 layers of protective barriers shattered one after another. Luo Hongying's figure was sent flying. Luo Lan's face went pale. She pressed her palms together. A holy spectral figure dozens of meters tall slowly manifested. The holy guardian angel descended. SS rank talent Angel's Blessing. A golden barrier of light rose in an instant, enveloping both of them. Luo Lan immediately called out, "Sister, fall back now!" Before she could even finish, Heiming had already walked up and raised its claw, tearing the golden barrier to shreds in an instant. It cast one cold glance at the two of them. Then it walked right past them without paying them any further attention. Outside, a profound silence fell over everything. Every instructor, including the dean, was completely speechless. Could this really be the power of a summoner who had only just changed classes a few days ago? How terrifying. This level of strength is completely beyond the scope of second transcendence. Faced with this incomprehensible combat power, the same words rose unbidden in everyone's mind, unrivaled within the same tier. Watching Jifei's smug, satisfied expression, Jiang Wei was shocked. A probability this close to 0, and he actually pulled it off. Could he really be a genius? Over the next 10 hours, Heiming slaughtered over 10,000 monsters. It even took down 3 third-tier bosses. Only 1,300 points remained before its next evolution. That was just half a day's worth of gains, though progress would only get harder the further along it went. On Luo Xuan and Luo Ning's side, they were both grinning from ear to ear, experiencing for the first time just how effortless leveling up could feel. I smiled and glanced at the recorder. The score had already reached 34,000. Not far away, Heiming finished sweeping through its circuit and returned. I cast a recovery on it. Before long, the dungeon's time limit was up. White light enveloped everyone and transported them back to Young Plaza. Countless stunned gazes turned toward us all at once. Many cadets returned looking battered and disheveled, none more so than the cold-faced young man. He slammed his fist into the ground in humiliation. He had been sent flying with one casual swipe from a black giant wolf badly wounded. At that moment, the Vice Dean's secretary shouted out, "I will now announce the point totals for all cadets. First place overall, Chen Lin, with 34,500 points." At those words, the cold-faced young man's eyes went wide. He immediately looked toward the holographic screen. My point total sat in first place by a massive margin. The second place finisher below me was Feng Ye, with only 13,000 points. That's impossible. The cold-faced young man refused to believe it. He was convinced there had to be an error in the rankings. And he wasn't alone. Many others found it equally baffling. How could the scores of everyone else, including the other 2 top provincial champions, be so low? Seeming to sense the confusion, the secretary explained, "The black giant wolf you encountered was Chen Lin's summoned beast." The moment those words landed, every single person's expression turned to one of utter, speechless shock. On the stage, the Vice Dean's secretary announced, "The new student tournament is hereby concluded. Your scholarship rewards will be distributed shortly. Dismissed." Back at the dormitory suite, as I pushed the door open and walked in, the cold-faced young man's expression turned slightly awkward. He drew a slow breath and said, "Something was delivered for you while you were out." Said it was a second batch of materials and resources. You weren't here, so I moved it to your room. I paused for a moment, then smiled and said, "Got it, thanks." The cold-faced young man turned his head to the side and murmured quietly, "Don't mention it." Back in my room, I opened the large black crate. This batch of rare metals was even larger than the first. As long as the silver butterfly fused with enough metal, the armor's hardness would eventually reach a point where even He Ming couldn't break through it. And there was a chance it could develop all kinds of special properties on top of that. By then, it wouldn't just be defense that was invincible, the combat power would become even more terrifying as well. I had no intention of staying a helpless summoner with no fighting ability of my own, because that kind of weakness was far too obvious. The moment someone specifically targeted me, a dozen different methods could easily get me killed. About 10 minutes later, every last piece of metal had been fused by the silver butterfly. At this point, its hardness was impenetrable even to a third transcendence holder, and the weight had reached 13 tons. With the mutual amplification of strength, a single punch was enough to shatter the ground. Just then, the first-place new student reward of 50,000 school credits also arrived. After a brief moment of consideration, I spent every last credit and selected dozens of fruit-type resources to purchase. Once the items were delivered, I emptied everything out, then summoned He Ming and fed them all to it. Before long, I felt surges of warmth strengthening me, spreading a deep sense of ease throughout my entire body. He Ming's frame also grew a little at a time, reaching 40 meters after just a few minutes. And now that I had advanced to the Summoner Swordsman class, each level up granted me an additional 5 points of strength. I had truly and completely gone from a backline weakling hiding behind cover to an offensive powerhouse. The next morning, all 4 of us in the dorm were assigned to Class 1. On the way, we ran into Luo Xuan and Luo Ning, who were in the same class. When we walked into the classroom, quite a few people were already inside. Even now, it seemed the shock hadn't fully worn off the fact that I had crushed everyone using just a single summoned beast. Nothing like that had ever happened before. At that moment, 2 exceptionally beautiful twins came in through the door. Luo Hongying and Luo Lan glanced around for a moment, then walked straight over and sat down right in front of me. At the same time, the tall and slender Jifei walked into the classroom, swept her gaze across everyone, and said, "My name is Jifei, and I'll be your homeroom teacher. That said, try not to come to me with things if you can help it. You all passed the entrance exams as top talents from your respective provinces. I trust you're all here for better resources. But the alien clans have been laying the groundwork for decades, and their advantage has been growing larger by the day. Before long, they will launch an all-out push through our defenses." At those words, every person's expression turned one of disbelief. Society was clearly running in an orderly fashion. There was even entertainment and leisure developing and flourishing. The media kept reporting that the situation had improved. There wasn't a single negative word anywhere online. Everything seemed stable and peaceful. Yet here they were, being told that disaster was imminent, reading the shock and confusion on everyone's faces. Jifei said slowly, "Haven't you ever wondered why you almost never see anyone in society who's been through more than 5 transcendences advancements? Even the strongest military personnel defending entire major provinces cap out at 4 transcendence." At those words, everyone thought back carefully and realized it was indeed the case. By all logic, someone at the 5th Transcendent Sec, a truly elite peak fighter, shouldn't be this impossible to spot online or in everyday life. Then a terrifying idea began to take shape in their minds. Graduates from top academies were at minimum 4th Transcendence and above. The vast majority of them had gone to the front lines without hesitation. It was precisely because of their sacrifice that peace had been maintained in the rear. Jifei continued, "News of this nature, the kind that would cause widespread panic, is naturally banned from circulation by every nation. This is why the vast majority of ordinary civilians have no idea this is even happening. What makes it even more urgent now is that the mutant beast populations are also rapidly growing in scale. If it isn't brought under control, the alien clans will undoubtedly launch their total offensive ahead of schedule. Ji-Fei looked over every cadet in the room and said, "The moment has come for us to stand up. All academies are sending out their best recruits to military bases to begin reducing the mutant beast numbers. Anyone willing to go to the military base and take part in this mutant beast reduction operation, please stand now." The moment the words left her mouth, the sound of chairs scraping back rang through the classroom. I also stood up without the slightest hesitation. Luo Xuan and Luo Ning saw this and immediately stood up as well. Fighting mutant beasts was always going to happen. Sooner or later, it had simply come a little earlier than expected. Watching this unfold, Ji-Fei's lips curved slightly. Half the class volunteering was already beyond expectations. All volunteers, move out, we're heading to the military base. A heavy-set boy still in his seat stared with wide eyes. Wait, us too? That's correct. Everyone in this class is a top recruit for the academy. Naturally, everyone goes. The reason this was only announced now is that the military planned to identify the volunteers as priority targets for special attention. Ji-Fei said without expression. If any of you truly can't find the courage to go, there is a second option. Leave Yonk Academy. Of the 20 or so people still hesitating, half of them stood up at once. Ji-Fei led everyone out of Yonk Academy. Parked in front of the school gate were dozens of heavy military troop carriers. As all the cadets boarded the vehicles, the once bustling Yonk Academy fell into a vast, empty quiet. Inside the troop carrier, Ji-Fei picked up a file and said, "Our destination this time is the Hongduan military base, located 900 kilometers outside Zhongqian City. Beyond that is the Balian mountain range, a stretch of terrain spanning tens of thousands of square kilometers. Aerial surveys have confirmed that even the outer perimeters alone contain tens of thousands of mutant beasts ranging from level 10 to 30. Deeper in, you'll encounter mutant beasts from level 40 to 50. You only need to focus on clearing the outer perimeter." All this time, the front lines have been holding on through technological defenses, just barely managing to repel each wave of attacks. However, for reasons still unclear, the mutant beasts' assaults have become significantly more ferocious recently. Because of this, the front lines simply have no capacity to handle this clearing operation themselves. 8 to 9 hours later, the troop carriers came to a stop. As the heavy doors swung open on either side, several units of soldiers in black tactical gear stood in a single line, as though they had been waiting for our arrival all along. The soldiers all saluted in unison. Something stirred in everyone's chest, and the casual, loose attitude quietly fell away. Ji-Fei walked forward and said, "Everyone follow me to the mission registration point." Along the way, everyone's eyes wandered in every direction. The military base was enormous. Artillery platforms stood at intervals around the perimeter, fortified with dense, layered defenses. Before long, everyone arrived at the mission registration point. Female soldiers distributed black smart wristbands to all cadets. The wristbands looked similar to the recorders from the exam, but had additional mission and map functions built in. There was also a distress signal icon. Pressing it once would immediately alert the military base, which would then dispatch personnel to carry out a rescue. At the same time, anyone nearby would instantly receive the signal and could arrive on the scene at the earliest possible moment. Welcome. It's a pleasure to serve you. Each cadet is required to accept and complete at least one mission per day. You have not yet met today's requirement. Please proceed to the mission registration point to accept and complete a mission as soon as possible. I walked up to the screen displaying countless missions and scanned through them. Better to play it safe, I'll take a few ordinary third transcendence missions. Suddenly, I felt a pair of eyes on me from behind. I turned around immediately. Luo Xuan had been following close behind me, and both he and Luo Ning were staring up at me with the most pitiful, helpless eyes. With their level of ability, venturing out into the wilderness would be a constant uphill struggle. I smiled and said, "Come along then." I said I'd see this through for you. Both of them nodded repeatedly, their gratitude almost spilling out of their eyes. Seeing this, Fengya, who had been about to invite Luo Ning himself, stopped in his tracks. He suddenly felt a dull sour in his teeth. The twins were one thing, but how did Luo Ning end up going with him too? The wilderness is treacherous, anything can happen at any moment. Zhongfeng, let's go together and watch each other's backs. Li Zhongfeng turned to Fengye with an irritated look. Get lost, go find someone else. Li Zhongfeng rolled his eyes, selected his mission, and headed out with some of the girls from the same class. Fengye turned to Cao Yang. Cao Yang cut him off. You're a hidden combat class, for heaven's sake. Stop being such a coward. Go find some reliable people to team up with yourself. If things go south, hit the distress signal if we're nearby. We'll come collect what's left of you. Before long, I had selected 3 missions. Eliminate the berserk black ape 200 kilometers out, the twin-fanged giant tiger, and the blood spirit colossal crocodile. The location of every mutant beast was obtained through miniature drones retrofitted by array mages, inscribed with observation eyes. Mutant beasts had strong territorial instincts under normal circumstances. They never strayed far from their home ground. This clearing operation had been thoroughly prepared for across all military bases, so that cadets could engage and eliminate mutant beasts more conveniently and reliably. With everyone's safety in mind, all personnel on missions could draw 3 high-explosive grenades and a handgun loaded with 7 armor-piercing rounds. These were enough to injure a mutant beast around level 20. I had 0 confidence in my marksmanship, so I just took the 3 high-explosive grenades and nothing else. Besides, a single punch from me hit harder than an armor-piercing round at this point, and with that we set off. We drove into the Balian mountain range before long. I switched to the silver butterfly right away and formed the armor. The smart wristband then spoke. Would you like to activate the flashlight? I immediately said yes. In the next instant, a bright white beam lit up the area roughly 10 meters around us. Inside the command center, every face turned grave. Through a nearby miniature drone, they immediately noticed that our route was off. If we kept going, we'd be moving into territory with mutant beasts at level 30 and above. Why weren't we stopping? The middle-aged man in the Major General's uniform said in a low, firm voice, "Find out exactly what missions they accepted." The woman managing the screens heard this and quickly worked the controls, then spoke up in shock. Kill a level 33 Berserk Black Ape, a level 36 Twin-Fanged Giant Tiger, and a level 39 Blood Spirit Colossal Crocodile. These are all 3rd Transcendence requirement missions. The last one even borders on 4th Transcendence difficulty. Have they lost their minds? Yang Xiao rubbed his temple and said, "This is Yunk Academy's top new student this year. He's only level 16. How does he have the nerve to take on missions 2 full transcendences above him? He's walking straight into his grave. No matter what, we can't just leave him to fend for himself." He immediately gave the order, "Get 4 armed helicopters into position nearby. The moment they're in danger, begin the rescue immediately." Yang Xiao let out a long sigh. Compared to the other bases, the Hengduan base was likely going to fall behind. Meanwhile, the smart wristband issued a notification. "Caution, you have entered the Berserk Black Ape's habitat." The very next second after that announcement, a giant serpent burst through the undergrowth without warning. Its thick, muscular body stretched dozens of meters in length. It snapped its razor-sharp fangs toward me with full force, the monstrous gaping maw nearly large enough to swallow me whole. I spun around instantly, grabbed the serpent's fangs with both hands, and wrenched with all my strength. The serpent's fangs snapped in 2. Blood sprayed outward as it recoiled its head in pain, but I didn't give it a single breath of reprieve. The ground dipped beneath my feet. My figure appeared directly in front of the serpent in an instant. One punch came down the snake's spine, cracked and shattered. The serpent let out a horrific screech. Cold, lifeless eyes filled with dread. It immediately tried to flee. I caught it from behind, wrapping my arms around it and slowly dragging it back. The serpent thrashed in terror, its frantic struggles shaking the ground beneath us, but nothing it did made any difference. My fist slammed directly into its head. The serpent's head exploded in a burst of blood and flesh, its skull caving in and crumbling apart. I seized the serpent's lower jaw with both hands, and tore it clean in two with brute force. The brutality of the scene left both Luo Xuan and Luo Ning shaking. Back in the command center, a heavy silence fell over everyone who had watched the whole thing play out. Every jaw dropped in disbelief. That was completely insane. He's only level 16 and he just went toe-to-toe with a level 29 giant constrictor with nothing but his bare body. He's a monster. Yang Xiao quietly lowered his head and read through the document in his hands again and again. It clearly showed his class as summoner. Suddenly, a roar blasted through the screen and filled the room, and everyone's expression turned grim at once. An ape with a body at least 50 meters tall, muscles packed and bulging, leaped down from halfway up the mountain. It had apparently been jolted awake by the noise of the fight and was now charging toward us in a fury. The female officer's face went white. This is bad, it's the berserk black ape. How did it get to level 34? Every 10 levels is a full transformation for a mutant beast. It could smash the giant constrictor to death with a few punches just as easily. Yang Xiao shook his head. In his heart he shared the same doubt. Among all of humanity, very few could bridge a combat gap this enormous. His hand was already gripping the radio. The moment things turned for the worse, he was ready to send all 4 armed helicopters in immediately. I didn't even have time to collect the spoils. A colossal, bloodthirsty black shadow came crashing down from above. The black ape's 2 palms locked together into a massive fist and slammed down. Without flinching, I drew the war blade from my back and swung in a single motion. A shockwave rippled out in every direction. But I came away completely unharmed. The silver butterfly had absorbed every last point of damage. The black ape roared again. Its body suddenly surged in size, growing several times larger and rocketing up to 70 meters tall. Then, as casually as swatting a fly, it brought its palm slamming down. But in that instant, I appeared directly above the black ape's head. Point blank activated a skill originally meant as a lifesaver, already repurposed for rapid repositioning. One devastating strike like a streak of silver slashed into the back of the black ape's skull, leaving a wound half a meter deep. Stung by the hit, the black ape immediately turned its massive body back and swung both palms in a frenzied barrage. Every one of them dodged. I closed in on it directly. The war blade drove into the same spot several times in quick succession. The black ape instantly lifted its foot and stomped down hard. The ground shook like an earthquake in a single terrifying instant. A cloud of dust and debris erupted in every direction. By then I was already standing more than 10 meters away. It seemed that even 13 tons wasn't quite enough to deal truly heavy damage to the black ape. But this was the limit of what I could do. With that thought, I decided not to drag it out any longer. In an instant, a blade that existed between the real and the ethereal materialized in my hand, its surface etched with mysterious white inscriptions too strange to read. I felt my spiritual energy drain empty in an instant, and a wave of heaviness washed over my mind. First time out, let me see what you're capable of. I slowly raised my hand. In that moment, every hair on the black ape's body stood on end. It felt a tremor roll through its skull as though something invisible and formless had targeted it for death. The black ape lunged forward immediately, trying to close the fight before it was too late. but my hand had already fallen. The phantom blade sliced through the black ape's body in an instant. I withdrew the blade. Fortunately, the berserk black ape's fierce, oppressive presence had kept nearby mutant beasts from daring to come close, and the fight had ended quickly. At the sight of this, the armed helicopters providing support in the distance slowly banked and flew away. Yang Xiao sat quietly for a moment and thought. Then it clicked, this had to be a mental trauma skill. Those were extremely rare. But what truly stunned him was the sheer fact that I had actually bridged an 18-level gap and killed the berserk black ape. And more crucially, this hadn't been some burst ability or a finishing move. It was a sustained, consistent combat state. That was the most terrifying part of all. Those capable of defeating enemies far above their level almost always relied on burst damage or ultimate attacks, not on a steady, constant baseline. Both could achieve a massive power gap, but the difference between the two was enormous. If this was genuinely his baseline steady, sustained power bridging two full transcendences, on the front lines he would be an absolute nightmare for the alien clans. At that thought, Yang Xiao felt his heart begin to race, and a surge of excitement welled up inside him, made his way to a nondescript little room, closed the door, and activated layer after layer of concealment arrays. Then he carefully brought out a communicator and said, "Brother Zhang, we found a monster here at the Hengduan military base. He's too powerful. I'm severely injured right now. I'm afraid I can't protect him on my own." About half an hour passed before a response came through the communicator. "Tell me specifically how strong." Yang Xiao thought for a moment and said, "The kind of strong where the two of us combined would be pinned down and pummeled into the ground." The voice on the other end said, "That's no small thing. I'd wager even all of humanity combined couldn't protect him. Just wait for the alien clans to send assassins," Yang Xiao said with a touch of helplessness. "He could crush me one-handed. Against you, Brother Zhang, it's hard to say." At those words, the other end replied immediately, "Understood. I'll go discuss this with the other throne rank right away." At the same time, Luo Xuan stared at the black ape's enormous carcass and called out in excitement. He took on a level 34 mutant beast without even needing He Ming's help. Lin Bro is absolutely stacked. I just smiled and said nothing. Then with a thought, I summoned the 40-meter He Ming. I had it devour the two mutant beast carcasses. Its evolution value increased by 0.2 points, still a long way from the 1,200 plus needed. After a moment of thought, I tossed the life crystals I had dug out from the mutant beasts I'd killed earlier into the black flames. Every last one of them. I then led the two of them deeper into the mountains. Half an hour later, a giant tiger over 30 meters long, with long and jagged fangs, burst out at us. But before it could even get close enough to attack, He Ming's pupils locked onto it. Then the ground exploded, and He Ming appeared directly in front of the tiger in an instant. Its claws stretched out. One awe-inspiring strike and the giant tiger was sent flying through the air. 4 grotesque wounds appeared across the giant tiger's face, blood flowing freely. It turned to flee, but in terms of speed it was no match for He Ming whatsoever. The sheer violence of the scene made even the command center personnel visibly uneasy. Even through the screen, those eyes sent a chill down their spines, a feeling like death was a heartbeat away. The few of us continued threading our way through the mountain range. An hour later, we had entered territory patrolled entirely by mutant beasts at level 30 and above, but with He Ming's intimidate in effect, not a single mutant beast dared come near. Just then, a colossal crocodile covered entirely in blood-red scales, its body stretching over 100 meters, suddenly snapped its eyes open. A fearsome, violent presence erupted from it as it issued a territorial warning to the intruders. He Ming bared its fangs in response, a terrifying, savage aura exploding across its body. The next second, its size rapidly surged, its length stretching to nearly 300 meters. Feeling as though it had been silently overpowered, the crocodile charged forward in fury, each footfall shaking the earth. Black flames blazed across Hae Ming's entire body. Its claws extended as dark light rose to the surface. A ring of golden light slowly lifted from its skin and fur, radiating a sense of absolute, immovable authority. The crocodile opened its colossal maw, row upon row of razor-sharp teeth, each one perfectly lethal. Yet when they closed onto the golden light, the jaws simply would not come together. Hae Ming just stared at it with cold and passive eyes. Then it raised its claw and brought it down with full force. In an instant, countless blood-red scales were torn away, and the flesh beneath was left a raw, ravaged mess. At the same time, the crocodile let out a ferocious roar and whipped its thick, massive tail. The tail blazed with the blood-red light that cycled and churned, its power terrifying, dragging a savage gale of wind as it lashed toward Hae Ming. 4 long, deep furrows were carved into the ground. Hae Ming strained with everything it had and just barely ground to a halt. The crocodile pressed the advantage and followed through. Its front limbs kicked off the ground with explosive force, clamped onto Hae Ming, and dragged it along as both of them plunged into the lake behind them. Water erupted into the sky as they crashed in. Two colossal beasts brawled violently beneath the surface, churning the lake into turbid murk. The black flames coating Hae Ming's body didn't dim in the slightest. Instead, the water temperature around them kept climbing steadily. Even with the environmental advantage, the crocodile was still thoroughly dominated. It activated its strength talent and still couldn't deal a single point of damage. In just a few minutes, the water level of the vast lake had dropped by nearly a quarter. Suddenly, the surface exploded outward. A black giant wolf burst through from the lake below. Its body, close to 300 meters in length, exerted an overwhelming, crushing presence. Combined with the savage, violent aura coiled around it, it made everyone's legs want to give out. Even though Hae Ming would never attack Luo Xuan and Luo Ning, the two of them still couldn't suppress the terror rising from somewhere deep inside. The same was true for the people in the command center, watching through their screens. As for the crocodile, there wasn't so much as a scrap left of it. At that point, the wristband spoke. All missions have been completed. You may return to the military base registration point to submit. By the time the 3 of us arrived back at the Hangduan base, it was already 1 in the morning. I walked straight into the registration point and handed in the mission to a female soldier. The female soldier asked in disbelief, "You actually completed all of them?" I nodded and pulled up the recorded footage on my wristband as proof. After quite some time, the female soldier finally snapped back to reality. 200 contribution points in total. Since you operated as a team, how would you like to distribute them? I transferred the points to the other 2 according to the ratio the female soldier described. I looked over at Luo Xuan and Luo Ning. Being with me meant they weren't contributing. And they weren't getting the chance to properly sharpen themselves either. It was time to find them more suitable teammates. Not long after I left, a line of text appeared prominently on the large screen at the registration point. Yonke Academy First Year Cadet, Level 16 Summoner. Contribution points, 100. Rank, 1245. It wasn't just at the Hangduan base either. The same line appeared simultaneously on screens at every other base where groups of academies were stationed. In that moment, quite a few cadets hanging around the registration points turned to look with surprise. Who is this person? They just pulled 100 contribution points in one go. They completed at least 2/3 Transcendence missions in a single run. I'm a first year too, and I've only got single digits in contribution points. Same here. I only dare to take on first transcendence missions. These mutant beasts are brutal, even with a level advantage. I'm getting pushed around. Most second and third year students only had a few dozen contribution points. Yet this person was level 16. A first year, and had bridged 2 full rank gaps to successfully kill 2 mutant beasts above level 30. Inside the Luoxiang base, Feng Yi was in the middle of discussing how to take down a level 60 colossal beast lurking on the outer perimeter, when he suddenly saw a name appear on the ranking board. He froze for a brief moment. How is that possible? At Feng Yi's exclamation, several instructors followed his gaze. Professor Feng, do you know this cadet? A first year, 100 contribution points on day 1. That seems a bit outrageous, doesn't it? Feng Yi nodded and said, the one I told you all about, the recruit I regretted losing, that's him. At the time, Ji-Fei offered far too much. Otherwise, he might very well have ended up as one of our students at Belong Academy. The instructors nodded, understanding at those words. But soon one of them shook his head. It's probably an older student with high combat power taking him along. True, though, that kind of thing really isn't appropriate behavior. This clearing operation exists not just to keep the mutant beast population in check, but to forge the cadets themselves. Exactly. Times are pressing, building up one's own strength should always come first. Chasing rankings by piggybacking off someone else is pointless. Feng Yi let out a sigh as well. He had thought quite highly of me before, now he found himself somewhat let down. Then he looked at the young man in black nearby and smiled. Yun Shu, have you finished your mission? Xiao Yun Shu walked over and said, yes, I killed 2 level 27 mutant beasts for you, Professor Feng. Technically, I could have been back much earlier, but on the way I ran into a level 33 heavy-armored lizard and spent considerable effort taking it down. Xiao Yun Shu's voice was flat, as though it was an utterly trivial matter. Feng Yi felt a wave of inner admiration. Impressive, slaying a level 33 mutant beast at level 17. The talents in your year really are extraordinary, one after another. Professor, rest assured, this era belongs to the prodigies, that much is certain. But with me here, no one is undefeatable. I will crush every rival and rise to the pinnacle of the human race. Xiao Yun Shu stole a glance sideways and noticed every instructor had their face covered, not saying a word. Then he saw the name on the large screen. His expression froze on the spot. 10,000 voices in his head refused to believe it. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How could anyone be stronger than me? 100 contribution points, even counting the heavy-armored lizard I killed, I still fall short. Reading the doubt on Xiao Yun Shu's face, Feng Yi said with some resignation, we just discussed it. A score like that is almost certainly the result of an older student carrying him. Don't pay it any mind. Xiao Yun Shu breathed a sigh of relief, but all the satisfaction from completing a second transcendence mission had evaporated with it. After a quick farewell to Feng Yi, Xiao Yun Shu set his jaw and strode purposefully into the mountain range, now swallowed in darkness. Meanwhile, I returned to the dorm and headed out with my roommates to grab some barbecue. I also entrusted Luo Xuan and Luo Ning to their team. The next morning at 9, I arrived at the registration point and selected 2 difficult tier missions requiring 4th Transcendence combat power. The moment I entered the mountain range, the female officer immediately called out to Yang Xiao. He's taken 4th Transcendence difficulty missions this time. At those words, Yang Xiao drew a sharp breath. 4th Transcendence corresponded to mutant beasts at level 40 and above. Even armed helicopters exhausting all their ammunition couldn't scratch one layer of skin off a level 40 mutant beast. Notify the Yonk Academy instructors, have one of them follow him. I'm worried Chen Lin might run into trouble. The female officer got to work immediately. After a quick discussion upon receiving the message, As long as Chenlin pressed the distress signal, support could reach him at the earliest possible moment. At the same time, deep within the tangled mass of giant trees and vines, a black giant wolf raced forward at high speed. About an hour later, it arrived at the mission's target location. A massive three-headed serpent at level 44 was issuing its warning. I quietly extended my hand.
My
The mysterious blade,
radiating ancient
just
aura,
over a meter
materialized
long,
instantly.
appeared.
The
The three-headed
beast's
serpent's
six eyes
pupils
instantly
all
shrank in
contracted at
pure
once.
terror.
It
The stench of
sensed
absolute
death
death
bearing down
suffocated
on
it.
it. The
Instantly,
next second, the left head
shrieked in
suddenly let out
agonizing
a
torment.
piercing,
It immediately
agonized
went
wail,
completely limp,
then went limp
violently,
and collapsed
crashing
against the
shattered
rocks.
boulders.
The
The
other
remaining
two
heads
heads
nudged their
nudged
fallen
it
brother.
urgently.
When
When there
it
was
didn't
no
respond,
response
pure
whatsoever,
chaotic
panic
consumed the
overtook
monster's
them
mind.
both in an
Then
instant.
following
At
my
the
command,
order,
the
Hei
wolf
Ming let out
out
a
an
thunderous
earth-shattering
roar.
His
Its
massive
frame
frame
exploded
violently
upward
expanded
to nearly 300 meters in length.
length.
Black
Hellish
flames
flames
blazed
ignited,
to life
swallowing
across
his
its
entire
entire
monstrous
body,
Sensing
sensing the terrifying
overwhelming
aura
godlike
bearing
aura
down
crushing
on
down.
it. The
The
three-headed
desperate
serpent
serpent
snapped its jaws open wide and spewed a
horrific
stream of
tsunami of
violently
purple,
purple
flesh-melting
lethal venom.
But Hei Ming
Hei Ming charged straight
fearlessly
in,
ahead,
ignoring the
ignoring the
venom
toxic
entirely,
blast,
and
and
clamped
brutally
its
sank his
fangs
fangs
onto
into
the
the
middle
central
head's
head's
neck.
throat.
The remaining
The
head,
final head,
watching its
watching its
companion
brother
being
being
savagely
savagely
mauled,
butchered,
roared and
furiously,
drove its
driving its
fangs
toxic
deep into
fangs
Hei
deep into
Ming's
Ming's
flesh.
Ming's
Hei
legendary
Ming's constitution
Stats
attribute
alone
was
allowed him to
all that
withstand
let
the
it
fatal
endure the
toxic assault.
poison's assault.
Hei
Hei Ming
Ming
swatted the
ruthlessly
biting
swatted
head
the biting
away with
serpent
full
away.
force.
In glowing
The
blade
sword
plunged
drove
ruthlessly
hard
into
into one of its
hideous
eyes.
eyes.
At the same
exact
time,
moment,
Hei Ming's claws,
infernal
blazing with
flame-engulfed
black
claws
flames,
slashed through the
swung
air
in an instant and drove
smashing
it
the beast
hard into
brutally
the
into the
ground.
earth.
But
the
its
serpent's
tail,
tail,
thick as a
huge as a
small building,
skyscraper,
over 30 meters
thick,
around,
violently
coiled
whipped
and
upward.
whipped
I
upward.
instantly raised
I
my
raised my
enchanted
blade
to defend
immediately to
myself.
block. Hei
Witnessing
Ming,
this,
watching
Hei Ming
this, erupted in
absolute
fury.
His
Its
massive
claws
unleashed
discharged dark
magic
light
that
and
shattered the very
detonated the air.
The beast's
The serpent's
impenetrable
hardened
armor,
hide,
so
so
invincible
formidable a
just a
moment
ago,
before,
shredded like
crumbled
paper.
like paper.
Horrifying wounds,
Grotesque
easily
wounds several meters
brutally
deep were
ripped,
torn open across its
bloody
surface.
scales.
Hei Ming
Ming
immediately
furiously
spun and
sinking
sank
his
its
deadly
teeth
fangs
into the
final
neck
head's
of the
throat,
last remaining
viciously
head,
tearing it with
tearing
unhinged,
with
demonic
frenzied
rage,
force,
as if
trying to
ripping its
rip
spine
it
out
clean
through
off
pure
through
willpower.
sheer will.
The two
The
apocalyptic
two
titans,
colossal
towering
beasts over 100 meters tall grappled
clashed in
and
a bloody
thrashed
death
together.
match.
Earth
Earth
erupted,
shattered,
and towering trees
completely
collapsed
disintegrated.
around them.
Calmly,
I rose
I
from the
stepped from the
dust
ruined
and
crater
debris
without
without a
single
scratch.
My
The silver butterfly's defense remained as
absolutely
dependable
flawless.
as ever,
Quietly
watching the two massive
legendary
creatures
behemoths
fighting
slaughter
each other with
mounting
increasing
bloodlust.
savagery.
casually strolled
I
over
walked over and
rested
sat
upon a
down on a
shattered
nearby
boulder.
rock.
Hei Ming
The
could
rest
easily
was
finish
Hei
this
Ming's
massacre.
to handle.
Suddenly,
Just then, not far away, a tall
mysterious
woman in white
gleaming
armor was
silently
approaching
approached.
silently.
I
I grabbed my war blade in an instant.
Chilling light
Weight
flared as
light
my sword
flashed,
slashed forward.
and the blade
But then
cut out.
I
Then I quickly
froze,
looked up in
staring in absolute
surprise.
shock.
Instructor?
What in the
What are you
world
doing out here?
Confronted
Faced
by
with
my
the
gaze,
question,
Jiang
Jiang
Wuyue
Wuyue
steadied the
quietly
trembling
steadied the
fingers,
fingers
which
that had instinctively
recoiled in
drawn
fear,
back with a
forcing
faint
perfectly
tremor.
cold,
Just
a
then,
massive
a serpent head over 30
crashed
meters
violently
across
from the
came
heavens
thundering
above.
down
The
from
earth
above.
shattered violently.
The ground
Blinding
shuddered
dust
with a
swallowed the
boom,
entire
and
blood-stained
a cloud of
battlefield in
dust and
seconds.
earth rolled in every direction. Black flames hungrily converted the three-headed serpent into energy and purification value. Jiang Wuyue was visibly shaken. Even at this distance, the savage aura made her skin prickle. Meanwhile, the command center erupted, spanning 3 full transcendence gaps, a level difference of 28, and he actually did it. How can his combat power possibly be this extreme? I feel like he's even stronger than whoever awakened that SS rank talent. Before merging into Hei Ming's body, its size rapidly shrank back down, and then it came to my side and lay down to rest. Jiang Wuyue said a quick word of concern before taking her leave. I opened the map, confirmed the route, mounted Hei Ming, and continued forward. The evolution value jumped by 10 points. At this rate, Hei Ming might be ready to evolve again in just 4 or 5 days. Its combat power would undoubtedly reach a whole new level of terror after that. Just then, a massive commotion erupted in the distance. Accompanied by roars and snarls, a wild bull charged into view. The bull's entire body was armored in thick, hard, dark yellow scales. Its two horns stretched over 30 meters in length. Every step its massive hooves took cracked the ground beneath them. This was the second mission target, a level 45 raging horned bull. I didn't hesitate. I immediately cast enhancement arts. Ming let out a roar. Its frame surged in size. Black flames detonated outward. In that same moment, the raging horn bull's razor-sharp horns drove in hard. Under the terrifying impact force, the aerial drone above scrambled to keep up. In the command center, Yang Xiao immediately gave the order. The female officer heard this and got to work right away. Ming extended both claws, dark light rising to the surface. It surged with everything it had and flipped the raging horned bull onto its back. The massive body crashed into the ground, dust and earth billowing outward. At that moment, a group of 2 men and 3 women came sprinting out from several hundred meters away. They turned and looked back at the scene, clearly shaken. So that's why the command center told us to clear out. Wait, one of them is level 45. The other one is only level 16? You're saying that one is level 16? The 5 of them stared in disbelief. A female instructor stationed nearby sensed the commotion and immediately moved to go deal with it. But Jiang Weiyu appeared out of nowhere and stepped directly into her path. Leave it alone. That's a first-year cadet summoned beast from Yonk Academy. Reading her reaction, the corner of Jiang Weiyu's mouth rose slightly. She said evenly, "He's genuinely outstanding this year." The female instructor looked dazed. Outstanding? That's a monster, not a person. Jiang Weiyu's expression stiffened for a moment. She cleared her throat and said, She and Ji-Fei had been close friends since childhood. That made her students practically her own, perfectly reasonable. At those words, the female instructor's gaze turned faintly envious. Half an hour later, Ming finally devoured the raging horn bull. It swept its gaze around the area, found no sign of me. Not long after, it found me being chased down and pummeled by a toad over 50 meters tall. It erupted in a blaze of fury and charged over in the blink of an eye. Watching this, I let out a breath of relief. After casting recovery arts and resting for half an hour, we pushed on in search of mutant beasts at level 40 and above. The round trip would take far too long, and those contribution points, if I missed a few, so be it. The top priority right now was getting Ming to evolve as soon as possible, then reaching level 20 and entering the Transcendence Dungeon. Deep into the night, Ming stood wreathed in a terrifying aura, 2 level 42 mutant beast carcasses at its feet. Black flames were slowly devouring them, converting the energy and funneling it into Ming's body. I sat on the ground panting heavily, my spiritual energy pushed far beyond its limits. I couldn't even maintain recovery arts anymore. My mind felt horribly hollow and weak. I had just spent several minutes using my bare body to shield Ming from another mutant beast's attacks. I had nearly died, but the gains had been worth it. Over the entire day, 15 mutant beasts at level 40 and above had been killed. All attributes had increased by 58 points. If I faced that raging horned bull again right now, I could finish it in just over 10 minutes. And the 2 level 42 mutant beasts lying nearby weren't even a contest anymore. The evolution value had also gained 195 points, only 1020 away from completion. The female officer swallowed hard, unable to keep the shock out of her voice. That's insane, 15 mutant beasts at level 40 and above in a single day. At those words, everyone around her looked over with expressions of deep respect. The highest ranked cadet at our Hengduan base right now is only at 700, right? The female officer's fingers worked quickly across the controls. The response came back shortly after, at Luoshang Base, home to Bailong Academy and several others. The The top cadet contribution score is 1,000. Second is the Cloud Sky Academy to the south at 890, then Xingtian Academy to the west at 850. This clearing operation involves over 100 academies in total, spread across more than a dozen military bases. They started with the mountain ranges with the largest surface area and the densest mutant beast populations, until the mutant beast population is reduced to a level that can no longer pose a threat to the cities. How did we fall this far behind? Not just in individual rankings, the overall clearing progress gap is also enormous. Luoshang Base has a sizable lead, Yang Xiao said, brow furrowed. The female officer said, Beilong Academy tops every annual evaluation. It's ranked first consistently. Naturally, the vast majority of strong applicants choose to enroll there. And this year's crop of talented cadets is exceptionally deep. Just imagine how brutal the competition among them must be. Everyone is giving everything they have, refusing to be left behind. But that's a good thing. The faster they clear their area, the sooner they can send support to the bases that are falling behind. Aside from the 5 bases assigned to top academies, the other 13 bases are in a very difficult situation. Mutant beasts at level 20 and above have barely been reduced at all. Yang Xiao nodded. That's exactly why we need to move quickly here, and then support the other bases as much as we can. I arrived at the registration point at 2:30. The lights along the road were still blazing. My ranking shot up like a rocket from 1245 all the way to 10th. I didn't give it much thought. I turned and walked back toward the dorm. I just smiled and said nothing, sitting down in my chair. The whole academy's shared forum had already exploded. Feng Ye sat down beside me and said, Everyone assumed an older student carried you. They're absolutely tearing into that kind of behavior right now. Haji Kong Sr. is in a really rough spot right now. He's the top suspect. A lot of people are pointing the finger directly at him. I asked curiously, why him? I accepted it immediately. The very first message Ji Kong sent after being accepted was a single line. I looked at Ji Kong's message and typed back, I just need the life crystals, and its contribution points are yours. Then we agreed on a meeting place and time. The next morning, I walked out to the base's main gate. Ji Kong and the others were already there. The girl standing beside Ji Kong with her graceful figure looked up with a spark of interest and said, Hi, I'm Ye Kexi. The other young man was Wang Yao. I gave a nod. The 4 of us got into an armored vehicle and drove deep into the mountain range. We'll need to be extra careful when engaging it. Kexi stays at range to provide buffs and healing. Junior Chen Lin, what's your summoned beast combat power like? At those words, all 3 of them immediately lit up, thinking, we picked the right person. If my combat power had only barely reached the level of a level 40 mutant beast, this fight would have been a brutal struggle. But seeing how composed I was, they felt a good deal more at ease. The armored vehicle drove 200 kilometers before everyone got out. Ji Kong stopped and turned around. This is the giant rock drake's territory. I'll draw it out. Everyone get ready to hold the line. At that, I said mildly, no need. I let my mind stir. A ferocious howl rang out for several kilometers in every direction, sending countless mutant beasts scrambling to flee. At the sight of this, all 3 of them were visibly taken aback. A pair of vertical yellow pupils, bright as lanterns, snapped open. In an instant, a terrifying aura erupted. Every step it took made the ground shudder and shake. Looking at its massive form stretching over 500 meters, its entire body armored in stone-like scales, and the imposing aura coiled around it. The 3 of them exchanged grave looks. they realized they had underestimated it. Hae-Ming instantly expanded to nearly 500 meters in size. Black flames detonated outward. Golden light rose to the surface, and the aura became even more terrifying. The sight left the three of them deeply shaken. It sensed that the life tier of the beast before it was below its own. Only those black flames gave it a faint, creeping sense of danger. Then Hae-Ming suddenly flashed a look of provocation. The giant rock drake erupted in fury. Its front limbs slammed down. Hae-Ming didn't dodge. It braced with the indestructible body and blocked them outright. Then the giant rock drake came roaring in. A palm over 100 meters thick, compressed the air and slammed down with tremendous force. Hae-Ming quickly sidestepped, then swung one claw back, but it barely scraped off a thin layer of stone-scale surface. This time the strike was channeled with talent power. Yellow light blazed and flickered brilliantly. In an instant, the weight surged to something terrifying, a crushing blow like a mountain falling. The sheer force was enough to make the air itself crack. The golden protective light around Hae-Ming held for only a moment before it shattered outright, and Hae-Ming was sent skidding back dozens of meters before barely stopping. The moment the battle erupted, he was decisive. It was clear to him that the giant rock drake was far stronger than they had imagined. This level 50 mutant beast with king-level bloodline was something no tier-jumping kill was ever going to bring down from their side. Even at the same level, the fight would have been extraordinarily difficult. For a level 16 summoned beast to be holding its own against a level 52 mutant beast, a 36-level gap, was absolutely terrifying. Yaekexi nodded immediately. A dazzling golden radiance lit up around her. Four pentagram patterns appeared beneath all three of them, and beneath Hae-Ming's feet, a steady stream of power flowing outward. Then one buff after another was layered entirely onto Hae-Ming, and Hae-Ming's four core stats surged significantly in an instant. At the sight of this, Yaekexi's face filled with astonishment. Applied to Jikong, those buffs would at least double his power. But on this summoned beast, the amplification was considerably reduced. It was almost unsettling. Yaekexi kept working without pause. Her focus shifted, and she activated her talent, Divine Punishment, Goddess's Sanctuary. After a brief casting incantation, a divine figure holding a sharp sword in each hand slowly appeared above the black giant wolf. Her eyes opened. In an instant, a terrifying, all-crushing divine pressure erupted outward. At the same time, I quietly applied the enhancement arts. With multiple buffs stacked, Hae-Ming's attributes reached 2,000. The surge in magic power made the black flames burn even hotter. Even 100 meters away, all three of them felt the scorching heat pressing against them. The transformation put the giant rock drake on high alert. It suddenly turned its gaze toward the three of them and snarled in rage. Jikong's expression tensed. He drew his sword and activated his talent, Absolute Transcendence. The earth beneath him exploded. His figure appeared above the giant rock drake's head as though he had teleported. In the blink of an eye, he unleashed over a dozen strikes. But the giant rock drake's hide was as hard as stone. Not a single cut got through. To the drake, the attacks were less than a mild irritation. Jikong immediately pulled back, but just as he leaped off the drake's head, the giant rock drake suddenly threw its head back and let out a roar. The next second, a yellow torrent of energy exploded outward, spreading 100 meters in every direction and forming a domain. A crushing, unbearable gravitational force bore down on Jikong. He struggled to stand. Above him, an enormous palm cast a wide shadow and came driving down. Yaekexi's expression shifted drastically. She unleashed every defensive technique she had. But the barriers that rose were as brittle as paper. None of them held for even a second before shattering. Despair rose in Jikong's chest. Ignoring the tearing pain in his flesh, he desperately tried to force his way out. Just as the massive palm was about to crush him, a black shadow came blasting in. The terrifying force of impact sent the giant rock drake toppling over, and a gale of wind erupted outward. Jikong sprinted back out of the crater and returned to the group. He smiled wryly and said, "I didn't expect the giant rock drake to have a second talent." He had been worried earlier that I wasn't reliable, and yet here he was, the first one to fall back. If it hadn't been for He Ming, he would almost certainly have died. Just then, the yellow domain spread wide again. Yikexi clenched her jaw, sweat running down her face, pouring everything she had into maintaining He Ming's buffs and healing. All three were stunned. This still wasn't He Ming's full power, but they only froze for a moment before turning and pulling back without hesitation. A ferocious, earth-shaking roar suddenly tore through the heavens and the earth. Terrifying black flames erupted in a violent detonation, spreading across a kilometer-wide range. A brutal phantom image, 700 meters in size, slowly condensed into form, radiating a terrifying hunger that consumed all things. The three of them went pale. A deep, bone-level fear rose within them. The impact was no less devastating than watching her god get struck down with a single slap. Caught within the black flames, its stone scales were melted away layer by layer. The yellow energy flow stripped from its body was devoured the moment it left. Watching He Ming's expression shift into another look of mockery, it exploded in furious rage and came charging in with a roar. Its massive palm broke through the black flames, blazing with yellow light as it swung down. Both sides collided. A black and yellow shockwave detonated outward. The thunderous impact reverberated in every direction. The stone scales, renowned for their formidable defense, were torn open directly by the flame claws. The terrifying heat slowly consumed its life, then closed in on the giant rock drake. The giant rock drake let out a wretched, agonized roar. It had always relied on its overwhelming defense to dominate everything in its path, and had almost never been injured. Now it was on the verge of severe wounds, and while its defense and strength were formidable, its speed was slow and its movements cumbersome. In contrast with the attack range granted by the brutal phantom image, He Ming simply kept its distance. Its eyes were full of fear. He Ming showed no reaction, only greed in its pupils. The giant rock drake roared in furious defiance as its massive body crashed thunderously to the ground. In an instant, the black flames devoured it entirely. At that moment, a drone came racing through the air overhead. The people in the command center stared at the devastation spread across the ground below, every one of them shaken. Yang Xiao's eyes locked onto the black giant wolf standing firm. The giant rock drake was nowhere to be seen. He understood the outcome in an instant. He thought to himself, the first jump across 2 full ranks was already a ceiling in itself. Then he jumped across 3 ranks to kill the 3-headed serpent, and now he's jumped across 4 ranks to cut down a level 52 mutant beast with king-level bloodline. How many more surprises is he hiding? Yang Xiao was completely certain that the alien clans would target Chen Lin. He let out a cold laugh. Time to make proper arrangements. Tomorrow, release the battle footage of Chen Lin slaying the 3-headed serpent to the Joint Academy forum. Let everyone know that we have someone like this here. Then the 3 of them made their way back. Yikexi said with deep admiration, Junior Chen Lin, your summoned beast is absolutely terrifying. Wang Yao and Jikong both nodded. Jikong said, every other academy says it was me carrying you. The truth is, it was you carrying me. Wang Yao and I didn't contribute anything this time. Split the contribution points between you and Kexi. Jikong's eyes lit up. He agreed readily. What followed was a systematic sweep of level 50 to 54 mutant beasts in the surrounding area. Deep into the night, I noticed He Ming's evolution value had reached completion and called the 3 of them over to head back. Yang Xiao gave a satisfied nod. Those level 50 mutant beasts were the hidden trigger for a beast surge. Once they were eliminated, the stronger intelligent colossal beasts wouldn't dare launch attacks so freely. Back at the dorm, I picked up the specialized device and spent contribution points to requisition 10 second-tier life crystals. Contribution points had more purchasing power than school credits. They were the frontline trading currency. They could only be obtained by contributing to humanity or by clearing mutant beasts. The life crystals arrived before long. I opened the lockbox and held all 10 thumb-sized crystals in both hands. The crystals shattered in an instant, dissolving into a flood of fragments that merged into my body. My level shot up to level 20. Looking at the second transcendence prompt that appeared on my personal panel, I pressed it without hesitation. A flash of white light swept through. Coordinate ID 00996. Mission: Eliminate the Fallen. Time limit 24 hours. Cannot voluntarily return to Blue Star. I frowned slightly. The Fallen, one of the clans attacking humanity, actually had the capacity to invade other worlds. Below, beside an enormous plantation, stood a group of Fallen. Their bodies entirely gray, their skin 2 meters tall, twin horns growing from their heads. They watched with cold amusement. At the sight of this, fury rose in my chest. From within rolling clouds of dust, a silver after-image burst forward at blinding speed. In the blink of an eye, I was directly in front of them. An armored fist, wrapped in a white shockwave, drove hard into one Fallen's face. If its physical body hadn't been so tough, its skull would have already burst open. I didn't dodge. I grabbed the spear tip and snapped it apart with force. I drew my war blade and drove it down in a single motion, splitting it in two. Gray blood splattered across the armor. Every Fallen finally snapped to attention. Pair after pair of terrifying eyes turned on me, burning with rage. The terrifying weight of it cut through the air with a thunderous roar as I appeared before one of them in an instant. It had no time to react. It raised its shield to block, but was blasted off its feet in an instant. It stared at me with heavy eyes. It was faster and stronger than me, and it was a 3-ring Fallen. But then it looked at the 80% Fallen in the plantation. Every Fallen roared. Black energy surged. The air filled with a suffocating, repulsive stench. The war halberd swept through the air and shattered everything in its path. The 2 nearest Fallen had their skulls caved in before they could do a thing. One spear after another drove in and struck the armor, but couldn't pierce through by so much as a hair's width. Sent one Fallen after another crumbling to the ground in pieces. It condensed black energy into chains and wrapped them around me. The words had barely left its mouth when Jintai felt a massive force pull from the other end of the chains. Its face went pale. It desperately pushed its talent to the limit. The outer layer of skin split open as hard black chitinous armor grew through. Yet the war halberd still cleaved it clean in two. Watching its elderkin die so horribly, Jintai's eyes went bloodshot as it turned and sprinted toward the king's city. The war spear tore through the air. Jintai's skull exploded in an instant. Every punch came with a white shockwave behind it. Before long, all 80 Fallen had been smashed apart. A massive eye formed entirely of gray array patterns appeared in the sky above. I drew a slow, deep breath, let my mind stir, and summoned He Ming. He Ming's 100-meter-plus frame was wrapped in a ferocious and terrifying aura. At that point, a large force of Fallen was already on their way. It became a black pillar of light that pierced through the clouds and directly shattered the gray eye. The heavens and earth seemed to tremble. The greatest gain of all was the flame. It had advanced to heaven blaze. As for Death's dual gaze, though I hadn't used it yet, an A-rank talent was never going to be weak. A massive gray eye rematerialized. The 10 Fallen at the very front were already at level 55. A transcendence dungeon of this difficulty at the level 20 threshold had never once appeared before in all of humanity's history. I said coldly, He Ming, leave none of them. In moments, it became a monstrous black beast over 550 meters tall and more than 1,000 meters long. A ferocious howl rang out for more than 10 kilometers in every direction. Under that terrifying aura, every Fallen stopped dead in their tracks. From the outside in, deep dread penetrated every one of them. The terrifying flames blazing across that entire form made them feel the very edge of destruction. At over 1,000 meters in size, each of Haeming's steps covered several hundred meters. Then Haeming surged with sudden explosive force. The ground across a range of several hundred meters shattered instantly, simultaneously activating swiftness to increase speed and wellspring to draw on heaven and earth energy. Its figure appeared in the middle of the fallen host in an instant. Haeming stared down at them coldly. It raised its enormous claw and brought it down. They were devoured by the black flames in an instant. With a thunderous roar, countless fallen were seized by sudden terror. Not only did they feel the scorching agony, their lives were being stripped away with terrifying speed. In just a few seconds, the weaker fallen crumbled to ash. Laerlis was visibly shaken. Damn it. What in the world is this power? It urgently gave the order, move now. The longer this drags on, even if we win, there won't be much life left to live. The 9 5-ring fallen nodded. They immediately drew all manner of weapons and unleashed their most powerful killing strikes. Every single attack was blocked outright. Such impenetrable defense made Laerlis grind its teeth in rage. It shot off into the distance like a blade, but its mind suddenly flooded with boundless terror. A pair of merciless pupils saturated with the meaning of death floated from the void itself and locked onto Laerlis, watching the black giant wolf descend like a natural disaster. The remaining 9 fallen saw the fear in each other's eyes. The other 8 fallen nodded in unison. They called out their black bone wings together and flew desperately toward the king's city. Haeming devoured Laerlis completely where it lay pinned beneath its paw. Then it raised its pupils and looked out coldly, fixing on one of the fleeing fallen at random. Haeming appeared behind it in an instant. Dark light blazed across its claws and tore it apart. Just then, a deathly force surged from Haeming's pupils, a force that made every fallen's hair stand on end. One fallen was enveloped as the area around it turned gray, its life extinguished in an instant. At the same time, I looked at the other fallen charging toward me with no expression on my face. My figure launched forward, the war halberd sweeping in every direction. Those fallen burst apart in showers of blood and flesh, falling silent one by one. Before long, everything within 100 meters was nothing but ash and body parts. After meeting up with Haeming once the battle was over, I raced forward along the path the fallen had come from, intent on hunting them all down. After devouring several thousand fallen this time, Haeming's body grew an additional 5 meters. The energy required for further growth had clearly increased. The evolution value only went up by 100 points, nearly 10 times harder than before the last evolution. The countless fallen had already fallen back, leaving only a single level 59 fallen standing alone in wait. Laertis' eyes were ice cold. Behind its 6-meter towering frame, a pair of terrifying black bone wings spread wide. Waves of oppressive power coiled around it. Looking at this figure, my voice turned cold. A truly repulsive aura. Haeming, deal with it. I'm going to eliminate the rest of the fallen. Haeming's size erupted to 1,000 meters in an instant. Black flames detonated outward, making it look like a black disaster beast straight out of the end of days. Savage power swept in every direction. The 1,000-meter plane cracked and crumbled. Haeming launched itself forward in a flash, appearing before the giant city, staring at a black giant wolf more than 100 times its own size. Laertes' expression showed not a trace of emotion. Its claws blazing with black light exploded the air, descending on Haeming like a bolt of lightning. But as the strike was about to land on Laertes, a barrier condensed from black energy blocked it, completely impenetrable. A beast whose life tier doesn't even reach king level surely doesn't think that killing a few insignificant ants qualifies it to turn the world upside down. Laertes spoke in a flat, unhurried tone, then casually flicked a finger. The black barrier exploded in an instant, sending Hae-Ming reeling several hundred meters. Immediately after, black power surged dramatically, condensing into a massive demonic blade over 100 meters long. Its aura climbed to an absolute peak in an instant. My demon prince of the fallen clan is nothing like those worthless creatures. Accept your death well. Laertes swung the demonic blade in a single violent arc. A blade shadow over 100 meters long landed across Hae-Ming's body in an instant. Golden light rose across Hae-Ming's surface, but it held for only a few seconds before it shattered. Hae-Ming took the blow with nothing but the raw physical endurance of its 2,500 constitution attribute. Laertes said, "You're impressive. I'll give you a chance. Become my mount. All you need to do is not interfere when I go to kill that human." A brutal phantom image of terrifying proportions, over 2,000 meters tall, slowly condensed. Feeling the force that consumed all things, Laertes' expression gradually turned grave. Its own life force was being stripped away. The brutal phantom mirrored the motion in perfect unison. The look on Laertes' face was ugly. Sensing its life force being stripped away without pause, it erupted in pure fury, and a terrifying surge of power exploded from within. But it expanded less than 10 meters before it could go no further. Laertes was sent crashing through thick, heavy city walls and sent flying several hundred meters. Laertes roared, and its figure vanished instantly, but Hae-Ming's reaction and speed were faster. With the attack range bonus from the brutal phantom, Laertes dragged itself to its feet, teeth grinding. Born a fallen noble, it had never suffered humiliation like this in its entire life. It shouted, "What are you all waiting for? Activate the fallen sky sealing array." Its voice carried to the rear. In an instant, a black canopy descended like an inverted bowl, covering the entire giant city. Shackles dozens of meters wide, saturated with fallen power, pierced out from the void and bound Hae-Ming in place. Streams of black energy poured through the shackles and seeped into its body, as if trying to corrupt and assimilate Hae-Ming entirely. Seeing Hae-Ming bound, Laertes burst into wild laughter, with tens of thousands of fallen channeling their power in full. Not even someone at 6-ring strength could break free. When this is over, I'm going to make sure you suffer slowly. Just then, Hae-Ming roared. The black flames erupted into sudden violence, expanding instantly to cover 1,000 meters. A deathly intent drifted through the entire domain. In that moment, every living creature within the sea of black fire would die. Even an immortal god would perish in those flames. At the same time, the brutal phantom over Hae-Ming's body solidified completely into reality. A pair of massive eyes appeared. 2 pairs of ashen, heavy pupils carried a terrifying deathly will. A single glance enough to erase a target. Within the domain, it was the absolute ruler of all things. The domain born from 3 fused talents was beyond terrifying. Caught within the domain, not only was its life being continuously devoured and converted by the black flames, the deathly will was also slowly grinding it away. Damn it. Let's see whether you drain my life first or I corrupt you, Laertes screamed with wild desperation. It poured every last shred of fallen power it had into the shackles, driving the corruption harder. The power amplified immediately. Boundless fallen energy washed over every inch of Hae-Ming's body, trying to corrupt its flesh and soul completely. Hae-Ming threw its head back and roared. Its unyielding will held the fallen power at bay, forcing it to advance only in agonizing inches. Hunger and cold had nearly taken its warmth entirely. It was the master's summoning that had saved it. From that moment on, Hae-Ming had decided it would follow the master forever. It didn't fight because of a contract or a soul connection. It fought for me, simply because it chose to. At the same time, the brutal phantom roared. Without any command from Hae-Ming, the black-gray energy coiling around the shackles simply shattered them outright. Massive claws swept down, tearing the restraints apart. The brutal phantom then turned its cold gaze on Laertes. The terrifying, deathly intent within it detonated. Laertes felt an overwhelming, immediate danger. Its entire body turned gray in an instant. In just a few short seconds, more than half its life was stripped away. Then a surge of black power burst from within it, shattering the deathly intent. It didn't dare linger any longer. It turned and fled through the air. Meanwhile, on the other side, I had already arrived at the vast palace plaza behind the giant city. The war spear was hurled through the air from several hundred meters away. It tore through the atmosphere and drove into the dense mass of tens of thousands of fallen. A large cluster of them was eliminated in an instant. The remaining fallen roared and unleashed their fallen power. Wave after wave of fallen energy surged through the shackles and into me. I felt nothing at all, but in my mind, the silver butterfly let out a pained cry. My expression turned grave. Just as I was about to take over and endure it myself, a colossal carcass dozens of meters long came crashing through building after building and landed directly on a swath of fallen. Looking at the carcass, every fallen was struck dumb. Laertes was dead. Fear spread through them like wildfire. Hae-Ming snapped the shackles casually. I let out a breath of relief, then turned to look at Hae-Ming, now wrapped in deathly intent, and frowned. Sensing my concern, Hae-Ming said it would recover in time. I gave a nod. I began sweeping through all the fallen in the palace. Just as I finished clearing the palace and stepped out to the plaza, the sky suddenly turned pitch black. Boundless fallen energy pervaded the air, dimly taking shape. At last, the phantom, hundreds of meters tall, formed entirely of fallen energy, solidified into reality. Even with the silver butterfly's barrier, I could feel the threat this time. Then a cruel laugh rang out. It's done. This fallen sky phantom, condensed from the power of tens of thousands of fallen, carried 6-ring strength, and even a trace of the true form's power. Bakum spoke in fury. You killed our master. Now you'll pay with your life. I didn't respond. I drew the celestial pivot sword staff from the ring and preemptively applied enhancement arts and recovery arts to Hae-Ming. With a thunderous roar, Hae-Ming shifted instantly into its gigantified form, a 1,000-meter frame wrapped in ferocious power. Its aura no less than the fallen sky, phantom itself. The domain forged from 3 fused talents spread in an instant. The detonating black flames carried threads of golden light, saturated with a suppressive force. In an instant, the gray, oppressive domain was crushed back. Dozens of fallen's expressions turned grim. They immediately retreated backward through the air, not daring to remain within the black old domain. This can't be right. This domain is different from before. Being inside it doesn't just strip your life force, it suppresses your power as well. At that moment, Hae-Ming's head was covered in golden black markings, radiating a divine, otherworldly light. Under that terrifying, suppressive force, everything around it became impossibly heavy. Black gold power erupted outward, an aura like a god-demon capable of crushing hell itself. The howl rang out for tens of thousands of meters. Empowered by the domain, Hae-Ming's physical body grew even more formidable. Every strike now carried suppressive force, heavy and devastating. Seeing this, the dozens of fallen's expressions turned even graver. They immediately poured their fallen power into the fallen sky phantom. The fallen sky phantom instantly stretched another 100 meters, growing even more enormous. The pair of black bone wings behind it spread to a full 1,000 meters. The gray energy swelled. The two forces clashed relentlessly against each other, ring after ring of gray and black gold shockwaves detonating and spreading in every direction. The tier of this battle was too high. No one could interfere. Meanwhile, deep inside a gray palace, a humanoid figure enthroned on a skeleton throne snapped open black eyes. A terrifying aura awoke in an instant. Someone has used my power. It steadied its mind and traced back through the past. Before long, following a connection that stretched through the void, a thread of consciousness descended into the fallen sky phantom, and the phantom was no longer without awareness. In that moment, fallen sky's consciousness arrived in the phantom body. Its gaze fell on He Ming. It said in a tone of quiet astonishment, "This black wolf isn't even half a year old, yet it already has six-ring power, a terrifying level of potential." Just then, accompanied by a roar, He Ming burst through the gray domain in an instant, ignoring the corrupting energy washing over it. Claws blazing with suppressive force and dark light came sweeping down. Fallen Sky frowned slightly. Its figure retreated 1,000 meters instantly. It attempted to launch itself skyward, but He Ming pressed relentlessly, its speed even greater. The terrifying suppressive force slowed the fallen Sky Phantom's body to a crawl. Seizing that split-second gap, He Ming leaped high into the air. Both claws tore downward simultaneously. Under the weight of the suppressive force, the fallen Sky Phantom's body was slammed into the earth. It cratered the ground for 1,000 meters, the impact shaking the world with its sound. He Ming immediately launched itself forward again. With the domain amplifying its reach, it gave Fallen Sky no room whatsoever to create distance. At the same time, both pairs of gray pupils unleashed Death's dual gaze in a relentless assault. Even though the Fallen Sky Phantom was not a living creature, Death's dual gaze could still impose upon it the certainty of death. Though the loss of a trace of consciousness was a trivial inconvenience, this black wolf's potential was far too great to leave unchecked. If left alone, it wouldn't be long before humanity gained another throne-ranked powerhouse, blocking the Fallen Clan's invasion. With that thought, Fallen Sky hesitated no longer. All of its fallen power detonated in one explosive release. He Ming was driven back. Then it launched itself directly into the sky, and immediately after, limitless fallen energy converged from every direction. Every fallen in the area was horrified to find their own fallen power draining away beyond their control as their bodies withered and died. A pitch-black spear over 1,000 meters long condensed into existence. A sight of utter dread, and it didn't stop there. The gray domain encircling Fallen Sky kept shrinking until it finally compressed onto the length of the enormous black spear. This was the qualitative transformation of a throne-ranked being. Mastery over a domain that far exceeded lesser creatures, able to expand outward to suppress opponents, or compress onto a weapon, doubling the destructive power. Fallen Sky's gaze was calm. It locked onto my position in an instant. A moment later, He Ming burst forward. Its 1,000-meter body placed itself directly between me and the spear. Fallen Sky gave a cold laugh. "I knew you'd shield him. Now die." But then its movement froze to a halt. The black gold domain had not expanded outward. Instead, it was pulling inward, contracting relentlessly. The compressed force was explosive, a thunderous, continuous detonation, until finally it fused completely with He Ming's body. In an instant, the black gold markings blazed with brilliant light. A wave of extreme suppressive force detonated across several thousand meters. The ground beneath immediately sank dozens of meters. Countless stones were reduced to powder. Fallen Sky was shaken and furious in equal measure. The black spear was released. In an instant, it penetrated to right before He Ming. The strike infinitely close to 7-ring destructive power. Yet under the suppressive force radiating from He Ming's body, its speed was halved. He Ming roared, raised its paw, and grabbed the spear tip directly. Two terrifying forces collided in detonation. The shockwave expanded to tens of thousands of meters in every direction. The ground beneath it cracked and crumbled continuously. Fallen Sky pushed its fallen power to the absolute limit, driving the black spear's edge even sharper. But after several minutes of the two forces grinding against each other, cracks appeared at the tip of the black spear and kept spreading. He Ming roared. It pushed its physical body and domain to their absolute limit. The 1,000-meter spear shattered into countless black shards in an instant. At the same time, the fallen sky phantom exhausted its power and dissolved into black mist, dissipating away. In the end, fallen sky etched the memory of my face deep into its mind. Its consciousness returned to the gray palace. Fallen sky rose from its throne. Its aura was like an abyss, bearing down on every magical attendant until they trembled. He is only level 20. Why does he have domain compression? Its expression turned grave. That level of comprehension and mastery over force is far too terrifying. The conditions for breaking through to the 10-ring throne, this black wolf has already fulfilled them at level 20. What stunned it even more was that the black wolf's domain was not attached to its surface. It had fused with its body itself. That was something only a heavenly king tier, above even the throne, could achieve. Fallen Sky let out a quiet sigh, then steadied its mind. It summoned a gray talisman and recorded my information on the Fallen Clan's kill list. Every human genius with throne potential would be marked. For convenience in having 6-ring or higher Fallen directly eliminate them. With that done, it leaned back against the throne and closed its eyes in silence. At this moment, on a landscape ravaged and devastated in every direction, I released the enhancement arts and recovery arts. My head was heavy and spinning. Even with the celestial pivot sword staff's mental energy restoration keeping things running, the drain of maintaining the buffs had still far exceeded the sustainable load. After a long wait, the prompt signaling the end of the Transcendence dungeon sounded, and both Haiming and I vanished. Time has elapsed. Final evaluation now processing. Cumulative Fallen eliminated. Fallen Sky Phantom defeated. 974 survivors rescued. Congratulations, your rating is perfect. Class growth attributes increased by 5%. Enhancement arts and recovery arts effects strengthened. Summoning art has advanced to Sacred Summoning Art. I appeared in the dorm room. I recalled Haiming in time to prevent the room from collapsing. I checked the panel. My class hadn't advanced. One more perfect rating in a Transcendence dungeon was still needed, but the skill improvements were significant. Enhancement arts amplification rose from 20% to 35%. Recovery arts went from slow healing to fast, though mana consumption doubled. The greatest gain was the advancement of the summoning art. From now on, every summoned beast I called forth would carry a sacred aura, and that filled me with genuine anticipation. I didn't rush to summon right away. Instead, I opened my phone to check the news. I saw reports of several hundred survivors appearing out of nowhere. I let out a breath of relief. The report said they were members of the same race from another world, enslaved by the Fallen. They had been rescued by a Transcendence individual in silver armor and transported to Blue Star. The authorities would ensure they were properly settled. The accompanying photos showed those people's emaciated bodies had already recovered. It seemed Zhou Yuan had fed them the blood fruit. With my nerves finally unwound, exhaustion washed over me. I dropped onto the bed and fell asleep. In the early hours of the morning, Feng Yi and the other two came back, worn to the bone. Seeing me sound asleep, he gnashed his teeth and yanked me awake. It turned out that after the military released the battle footage of me slaying the three-headed serpent, the forum had gone into complete meltdown. Once everyone learned just how powerful I was, they started frantically accepting missions and competing with each other. No one dared to rest. Sao Yang suddenly spoke up. The Bailong Academy students figured out a strategy of cycling missions in a team rotation. Their efficiency is way ahead of everyone else. All three of them felt their competitive spirit roar back to life in an instant. They decided to skip eating, immediately rallied their teammates, and dove back into missions. Watching this, I smiled and got up as well, heading to the mission registration point. I had gone most of the day without doing any missions. My ranking had dropped from 10th all the way down to somewhere past 2,000. After a moment's thought, I accepted 2 missions, one to kill a level 59 Dark Gold Berserk Bear, and one classified as a 6th Transcendence difficulty mission, then turned and left. The 6th Transcendence mission required killing an intelligent colossal beast. To this day, not a single instructor had ever completed it. Yang Xiao shook his head helplessly. It couldn't help feeling a flicker of anticipation. The dedicated drone assigned to track me continued following without pause. An hour later, mounted on He Ming, I arrived deep in the mountain range. On an open stretch of ground, I found the Dark Gold Berserk Bear. It snapped open its dark old eyes. Its 600-meter tall body rose upright, the earth trembling beneath it. A savage, violent aura swept outward. It roared, trying to drive us away. I quietly stepped down from He Ming and immediately backed off. I left the battle to He Ming. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear was on a tier far too high for me to contribute anything meaningful. I needed to earn contribution points as fast as possible to exchange for metal materials for the silver butterfly to fuse. Seeing me retreat to a safe distance, He Ming turned its head. Gray eyes gazed coldly at the Dark Gold Berserk Bear. Its size rapidly expanded, over 1,000 meters long, 650 meters tall. The ferocious aura it exuded left the Dark Gold Berserk Bear visibly shaking. In the command center, the female officer was stunned. In just half a day, it grew from a few hundred meters to over 1,000. Yang Xiao was equally astonished. After all, an SSS rank growth type talent had never appeared before in all of humanity. The ground crumbled. He Ming's figure burst forward instantly. Black flames detonated. A brutal phantom over 2,000 meters tall materialized. A 6-kilometer radius was blanketed in fire. Then it contracted back to just over 2,000 meters to conserve magic power. After the battle with Fallen Sky, He Ming's mastery over its domain and power had improved substantially. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear roared, razor-sharp energy currents coiling around its body, gold light flickering across its claws. But before the brutal phantom, even its 600-meter frame looked like a dwarf. The black flame claw came sweeping down. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear refused to yield. It raised its paw to block. Ring after ring of black gold shockwaves detonated. The earth trembled. The razor-sharp energy currents were devoured entirely. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear endured the crushing weight of a mountain. The ground beneath its paws crumbled. Its knees slowly began to bend. It roared in defiance. Its muscles swelled as it unleashed an even more powerful surge of razor energy. But the brutal phantom's movement suddenly changed. He Ming seized the opening and charged straight in. Black-like claws tore downward. 4 deep gashes, bone deep, were left across the Dark Gold Berserk Bear's body. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear screamed in pain. It realized the black flames were seeping through the wounds and consuming its life. Its eyes turned savage. It locked into a frenzied brawl with He Ming. Blood poured across the ground in waves. Every drop of it, the Dark Gold Berserk Bear's blood. With the brutal phantom, He Ming hadn't taken a scratch. At last, the Dark Gold Berserk Bear threw its head back and let out a howl. Its momentum climbed higher and higher. Then it suddenly turned and sprinted in a wild, desperate retreat toward the depths of the mountain range. Every enormous tree along the path was shattered. Dust and smoke rolled in thick waves. The distance closed in the blink of an eye. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear looked back in terror, howling as it called for its king to come to its rescue. Far away on a mountain peak, a colossal beast stirred in its sleep and slowly opened its eyes. Countless blue lightning arcs crackled around its body. A terrifying roar rang out across more than 100,000 meters of earth. The level 62 Undying Berserk Bear. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear rushed to its side and made its grievances known. Hei Ming had invaded the territory without provocation. At those words, the undying berserk bear's blue lightning exploded in an instant, surging wildly in every direction. The clear sky erupted into a downpour. Lightning struck the ground in a relentless barrage. Thunderclouds gathered into a storm eye, a scene like the end of the world. My expression turned grave. I drew the celestial pivot sword staff and applied enhancement arts to Hei Ming. The undying berserk bear's gaze sharpened. The earth beneath it exploded. It appeared in front of Hei Ming in an instant. Just then, black flames saturated with terrifying suppressive force erupted from Hei Ming's body. Black gold markings covered it from end to end. The undying berserk bear's body grew heavier. The lightning domain was suppressed. Hei Ming called forth its own domain. The undying berserk bear was shaken to its core. Watching the black lightning claws streaking toward it, it roared and swung a palm to meet them. The instant black gold force clashed with blue force. The shockwave exploded like a tsunami, earth-shattering in its scale. The undying berserk bear drove its domain to the absolute limit, yet it couldn't break free from the suppressive force's hold. Hei Ming's domain was the terrifying fusion of its three talents. Even the gray, oppressive domain carrying throne-level power had been unable to contest it. The undying berserk bear roared and swung its other claw, wreathed in savage, raging lightning. Hei Ming met it without flinching. Black light claws drove in head-on. The two colossal beasts traded blow for blow in a continuous exchange. Shockwave after shockwave detonated. The earth crumbled. Every plant and tree was annihilated. Lightning from above struck Hei Ming again and again. I watched from a distance, quietly maintaining recovery arts. The battle that had been evenly matched shifted in Hei Ming's favor in an instant. The undying berserk bear roared in fury. "Go kill that human!" The dark gold berserk bear's eyes turned savage as it charged toward me. Hei Ming erupted in a blaze of fury in that same instant. Its gray eyes detonated with deathly intent, turning the entire area around the dark gold berserk bear gray and grinding its life away. The dark gold berserk bear collapsed on the spot, critically wounded. The undying berserk bear seized that split-second pause. Its claws condensed into a blazing pool of thunder and struck directly down on the crown of Hei Ming's head. Under the terrifying force of impact, Hei Ming's front body dipped. It took the full hit. The ground shattered. The undying berserk bear pressed the advantage and bore down relentlessly. Thunder hammered in a continuous barrage. At that point, the dark gold berserk bear struggled to its feet. It roared and charged. My expression turned grim. I was about to make a strategic retreat, but a thunderous sound came rumbling from the distance. Emerging from a cloud of rolling dust, a woman in gold armor carrying a 4-meter war halberd came sprinting toward us. Ji Fei. Her speed was extraordinary. Every step cracked the ground beneath her feet. The tip of the halberd dragged a long, deep scar in the earth. As she drew close to the dark gold berserk bear, she swung the halberd and leaped. The halberd head expanded to over 20 meters. The dark gold berserk bear glared at her with fury and brought its massive palm crushing down. Ji Fei's fighting spirit surged. The war halberd expanded again. She launched herself forward in an instant, slipping past the attack. Then she swept it horizontally outward, piercing through the dark gold berserk bear's flesh. Within just a few minutes, the dark gold berserk bear's massive body crashed to the ground. With defiant fury, it unleashed a dense surge of razor-sharp energy. Ji Fei had already anticipated this. The surging chi and blood erupted and became something tangible. The red war halberd swept across. Every current was blasted apart without exception. At last, Ji Fei leaped up. The 30-meter wide halberd head came slamming down. The dark gold berserk bear's skull caved in, and it was gone. Ji Fei walked over to me with a smile and said, "Well, wasn't that a pretty impressive save?" Thinking back on her ferocious fighting style, the words female Tyrannosaurus floated through my mind. I quickly changed the subject. "Instructor G, what brings you out here?" She smiled with the corner of her mouth and said, "The commotion was this loud. I came to take a look. Would you believe that?" She had said the exact same thing last time. I looked sincerely at the war halberd in her hand and said, "Of course I believe you." Seeing I was unharmed, Hae-Ming settled down. It pulled the domain back to within 1,000 meters. The suppressive force grew even more powerful. In an instant, it broke through the undying berserk bear's suppression. Both sides threw themselves back into a life-or-death struggle. The earth shattered. Mountain ranges collapsed. The sheer scale of destruction was utterly terrifying. Just then the lightning and thunder within tens of thousands of meters above suddenly grew frenzied, striking the ground in relentless volleys. Endless churning black thunderclouds boiled above Hae-Ming, forming a storm eye covering 10,000 meters. A contemptuous, terrifying force gradually gathered within it. Hae-Ming's gray eyes showed no trace of fear. It controlled the domain as it slowly contracted. The power was being compressed. In just a dozen or so seconds, the domain fused completely into the body. The black gold markings blazed with brilliant light, and a terrifying surge of suppressive force appeared. In the darkening, overcast world, on one side was the wild, untamed fury of countless lightning bolts, like divine punishment raining down. On the other side stood the 1,000-meter giant wolf, its black gold markings blazing at their absolute peak, like a god demon, head tilted back, staring straight into the heavens. The two terrifying forces split the sky and earth in two. The scene was breathtakingly spectacular. Within the storm eye, countless lightning elements converged into one, accompanied by a furious roar from the undying berserk bear. In an instant, the sky and earth across 10,000 meters went dark. A blue lightning pillar came crashing down from the heavens. Beneath that 1,000-meter thick column of lightning, Hae-Ming's entire body was covered by the strike directly. The ground across several kilometers ceased to exist, and in a crater more than 300 meters deep, the 600-meter-tall black wolf still stood. Its black gold markings blazed at their utmost brilliance. The only luminous presence in that darkened world. The undying berserk bear couldn't believe what it was seeing. It screamed, "Impossible! How is this possible?" Saturated in suppressive force with every step, Hae-Ming cracked the earth beneath it as it walked. It moved toward the undying berserk bear. Its gray eyes were cold and merciless, nothing in them but killing intent. Hae-Ming burst forward, claws out. The terrifying suppressive force swept down. Watching the undying berserk bear die, a cheer erupted in the command center. "We won! That summoned beast is incredible. It's practically a god. That silhouette standing unbroken beneath that contemptuous bolt of lightning. They would probably never forget it for the rest of their lives." Yang Xiao smiled. As a peak ninth transcendence powerhouse, he could see things others couldn't. Controlling a domain, that was something only a throne-level being could do. Even he had only just managed to condense his own domain. The step to full control was still just out of reach. More importantly, the Black Wolf had already achieved domain fusion. That was the defining technique of a heavenly king tier. I returned to the dorm as dawn was breaking. A soldier walked over and handed me a lockbox. "Commander Yang Xiao asked me to pass this along to you." I nodded. Back in the room, I opened the lockbox. 6 top-tier summoning materials immediately caught my eye. It came as a slight surprise. Were these rewards for all the mutant beasts I had killed? If so, I might as well start the summoning early. I was quite looking forward to a summoned beast with a sacred aura. After arranging the summoning materials, I extended my hand and spread it open in the air, then activated the summoning art. Array patterns instantly flickered to life across my palm. As the connection reached the other end, a burst of intensely brilliant golden light erupted. I glanced at its race and was struck with awe. An angel. Back in Rift Canyon, Luolan had summoned a phantom image that carried angelic power, which gave some sense of just how formidable the angel race truly was. As far as anyone knew, no summoner had ever managed to summon a being as powerful as an angel. But looking at the tiny golden angel before me now, barely clinging to life, both wings behind her broken, I sank into thought, so instead of summoning something weak, I've summoned something broken. I smiled and shook my head. Since this little angel had responded to my summons, I couldn't abandon her. I walked forward and pressed a finger to the small angel's fair forehead. Without hesitation, I chose confirm. Accompanied by pain beyond imagination, the tiny unconscious angel was immediately lifted by a vast and profound force. That force dissolved into countless sequences and entered her body. In an instant, her severely depleted origin and life force began recovering. After a long while, the little angel's golden lashes trembled faintly, and she opened her eyes, twin golden irises radiating a sacred aura. In her left eye, a great blazing sun rose and fell faintly, filled with a majestic, scorching presence. Her right eye radiated a cold, lonely stillness, like a solitary moon hanging in isolation. In every sense, appearance, presence, and bearing, she surpassed the upper limit of what a human could conceive. The tiny angel fluttered her wings and drew close. Her small hands clutched my clothes. In a stilted, uncertain voice, she called out, "Master!" Looking at the little angel, I smiled. "From now on, we're partners." She said, "Diana?" I nodded, then asked with some curiosity, "Diana, why did you agree to form a summoning contract?" At my words, Diana's eyes dimmed. She said, "I was knocked from the sacred tree, and then corrupted by black energy. Everyone else is gone too." Hearing this, I understood immediately. They had been invaded by enemies, and my summoning had saved her. Diana lightly nuzzled against my hand and said, "All right, Master." Then, with a thought, I pulled up the panel. Summon Beast, Eclipse, Species Angel, Level 20. Skills, Sacred Blessing, grants the target a 50% increase to own attributes. Radiant Sanctity, releases one's own power as a shining light, anywhere within heaven and earth. All wounds continuously recover, and one layer of Sacred Barrier is granted, blocking any attack. Souls are set ablaze. When the cold, solitary moon rises high, ring blades appear, and the true force of final annihilation is obtained. When sun and moon converge, the moment of judgment, heaven and earth come to a standstill. And when the two converged, it could actually bring heaven and earth to a standstill. That directly touched the dimension of time. The angel race was truly extraordinary. They waited with immense anticipation for me to come out. But when they saw nothing around me, they deflated all at once. It's definitely not weak, right? Everyone began speculating back and forth. Young Xiao didn't join in, no matter what the third summoned beast turned out to be. With that black wolf, my potential assessment would never drop. At that moment, deep in the mountain range, a middle-aged man was murmuring. After several halting passages of unfamiliar syllables, the void began to tremble. Countless cracks spread across the physical plane, like a shattering mirror. Then quickly, the space buckled under the strain and was torn open dozens of meters by a pair of pitch-black demonic claws. The spatial tunnel was extremely fragile, on the verge of collapse at any moment. The truly powerful could certainly open a stronger spatial channel, but doing so would directly break through the shielding arrays and be detected by humanity. Ha 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 ha. This time I'm going to kill to my heart's content. Sensing waves of hostile energy washing toward him, the middle-aged man's face went somewhat pale, but he forced himself to stay composed. You did bring the resources you promised, right? Leakru, the leader, glanced at the man with a touch of contempt. Then it tossed a storage pouch over. The middle-aged man caught it quickly with both hands. When his consciousness stepped inside, his face instantly lit up with excitement. These materials were enough to push him straight to seventh transcendence. And all of this was in exchange for leaking a single piece of information about humanity. Liakru frowned and said, "Hurry up and hand over the list of top talents in this area." The middle-aged man immediately handed over the list he had compiled over recent days. "This person called Chen Lin. Pay special attention to him." Liakru was somewhat skeptical. "He's only level 16 and hasn't shown any notable talent. Why does he deserve attention?" The middle-aged man explained, 3 days ago. As he spoke, he also produced video footage as proof. After watching it, Liakru's expression turned to one of utter shock. This human absolutely cannot be allowed to live. Beside it, Liakru's eyes lit up with a completely different kind of interest. She licked her lips and said, "Let me deal with him." Liakru frowned and said, "I know my sister has likely taken a liking to him. She wants to corrupt and enslave him, but that's essentially the same as killing him. So it gave the order, find your targets and begin the hunt. Leave no one alive." Nearby, patrolling miniature drones spotted the scene immediately. Alien clan, how did they get here? Alert all cadets to evacuate from the mountain range immediately. Looking at those fallen, every one of them at minimum 4 ring. The female officer's expression turned grave. She immediately began issuing command after command. Yang Xiao's expression showed no surprise. She understood that Yang Xiao was likely going to provide support in person, but the severe wound he carried would undoubtedly worsen. The others clenched their fists. A shadow crept over their hearts. Before long, the command center fell into silence. Only orders and transmissions continued to go out, one after another. At that moment, high on a distant cliff, a fallen female with a seductive figure slowly descended. Looking at the silver-armored figure being guarded by the black giant wolf, Liakru smiled. "What luck, found him this fast, and he seems to be in a weakened state. This little toy is mine." Liakru licked her lips. Her figure burst forward, sensing a wave of nauseating energy wash toward me. I snapped my eyes open, gaze turning ice cold. Hei Ming, who had already sensed it long before I did, raised its head first to look. The moment Liakru met Hei Ming's 2 pairs of gray pupils, a chill shot straight through it. "What's happening?" Its body was shaking involuntarily, but it suppressed the chill quickly. Liakru struck first. It lashed its filaments out and sent them all flying. Like a sky full of locusts, they swarmed toward Hei Ming. Golden light blazed across Hei Ming's entire body, blocking every filament. Its gray eyes gazed at it with cold indifference. The next moment, Liakru's consciousness appeared in a dark, lightless space. A pair of cold, merciless gray pupils opened. Under the gaze of those heavy gray eyes, boundless terror surged upward and drowned its entire mind. Liakru trembled uncontrollably. Its body refused to move. It could only watch helplessly as Hei Ming walked toward her, step by step. At its immense size, it was before her in just a few seconds. Then one paw pressed it into the ground. Black flames immediately erupted as Hei Ming began to devour. Throughout the entire process, this level 56 fallen called Liakru didn't have even the slightest chance to resist. The sight instantly lit up the atmosphere in the command center, which had been so heavy and silent. Hei Ming raised its paw and said in a low voice, "Master, it didn't die, it escaped." With Diana by my side now, even letting Hei Ming leave for a time wouldn't leave me in any danger. Liakru flew desperately toward the spatial channel, panic written across her face. It's too terrifying. That black wolf is absolutely horrifying. Even now that the gray heavy eyes had vanished, the fear still gripped it completely. As for the talent hunting mission on this side, it was already a complete failure. With that terrifying black wolf here, any fallen who crossed its path would die. Then Haeming's size instantly erupted. It became a colossus over 1,000 meters tall. In an instant, it crossed dozens of kilometers. It appeared directly behind Layakurli. The massive paw, cast in shadow, came down. The earth fractured in every direction. The tremors carried across an entire 10,000 meters. Beneath Haeming's enormous paw, the black flames devoured Layakurli completely. Through the smart wristband, I already knew the Fallen had arrived at the Balian mountain range. After a moment's thought, I decided to split up and hunt the Fallen separately. With two powerful summoned beasts now, moving together would be a waste. With that in mind, I called over a miniature drone and had it guide Haeming's path. Haeming burst into motion in an instant, an urgency in its gray eyes unlike anything it had shown before. The female officer said with a note of admiration, "Just a few days, and it's already grown to this level. Give it a year. It can't possibly be able to fight a throne, can it? Just thinking about it is already beyond belief." Up to this point in history, only 85 throne-rank powerhouses had ever emerged, accumulated over more than a century. Every one of them had fought for over a decade, rising to the pinnacle from among generation after generation of gifted talents. A large part of why they were so scarce came down to the alien clans. On the vast meat grinder that was the front lines, even the most formidable genius could barely make a ripple. Every offensive launched by the alien clans claimed countless lives. Many throne ranks had fallen in those battles, and only 30 remained alive today. Meanwhile, deep in the mountain range, a woman in gold armor swung a mighty war halberd wreathed in red chi and blood, holding 4 level 55 fallen in check. Under the fearsome red war halberd, the very air was detonated. All 4 fallen had no way to withstand it head-on and were driven back, step by step. Watching this unfold, Layakru frowned. It slowly twisted a black spear into shape between its hands. It had no time to keep grinding here. There were many more talents to kill. Layakru's figure burst forward in an instant. The black spear, saturated with fallen power, drove forward in a fierce thrust. Faced with this sudden strike, Ji-Fei reacted with lightning speed. Chi and blood erupted across her entire body. The halberd head instantly expanded. A savage momentum swept out in every direction. Ji-Fei's eyes were filled with battle hunger. The war halberd swept out, trailing a red arc of bloodlight. Everything in its path was shattered to pieces. Layakru stared at all of this with a grave expression, thinking, combat power like this at level 55. She has to be eliminated. Layakru immediately erupted with fallen power. Black energy surged outward, spreading across a 100-meter radius. Seeing this, the other fallen began erupting with fallen power as well. Red light covered Ji-Fei's entire body. Chi and blood swirled around her, resisting the corruption. Her eyes turned cold. She said, "Trying to corrupt me? You're looking for death." She launched herself straight at Layakru, but Ji-Fei paid them no mind whatsoever. Her momentum was pushed to its absolute savage peak. She would not stop until Layakru was dead. When it gave out, she could genuinely be assimilated. Ji Kong, fighting on the other side, noticed the situation, and his expression turned urgent in an instant, swinging furiously at the level 56 fallen before him, desperate to cut through and go support Instructor Ji. Instructor Ji had ended up surrounded by Fallen precisely because she moved to protect them. At the same time, Layakru drank a vial of gray blood. Its aura surged wildly, reaching 6-ring, throne-level power, terrifying beyond words. Layakru let out a grin. With one hand it condensed a black spear, then hurled it. The terrifying spear tip shot forward in an instant. The black spear pierced through flesh and emerged from Ji-Fei's back. Blood dripped from the tip onto the ground. Watching this, Layakru smiled and walked forward step by step. "Become my slave." Just then, a silver war spear broke through the air, pierced through the black energy. Layakru's brow furrowed slightly. It said, "My sister failed to kill you, which means it is already dead." Layakru had no emotion whatsoever. not a shred of grief for its own sister's death. A humanoid figure under half a meter tall, with golden wings growing from its back, appeared. A sacred aura immediately spread through the surrounding air. All six Fallen's expressions changed in an instant. Every one of them turned to look. An angel, but immediately after, their gazes turned blazing with intensity. This is an infant angel. It has no offensive capabilities. Ha ha ha. Chenlin, I should really thank you for bringing such a wonderful gift. Feeling those nauseating gazes settle on her, Diana's brow furrowed. That black energy, she recognized it immediately. They were the ones who had invaded her home. Anger rose in Diana's eyes. Her wings spread wide as she rose into the sky. An enormous radiant golden sun, a full 1,000 meters across, appeared behind her, hanging in the sky. Diana's small body shifted into its adult form at that moment. Tall, slender, and perfectly proportioned. Her golden eyes radiated a majestic presence, boundless and divine. Scorching golden light blazed downward. All six Fallen felt as though their entire bodies had been plunged into hell. They writhed in agony. Their fallen power was suppressed outright. The realization filled them with absolute dread. Throughout all of history, the Fallen Clan and the Angels had always been mortal enemies who perfectly countered each other. But beneath this blazing sun, that balance had been shattered. I will evolve your souls and cleanse you of your heavy sins. As those majestic and passive words fell, the great sun behind Diana erupted with golden light even more intensely. The radiance painted everything across 10,000 meters in gold, as though a second sun had appeared in the heavens. A terrifying solar force shook everything around it. The bodies of all six Fallen suddenly ignited with searing golden flames. The torment of their souls burning made them howl in an instant. Liakru's face twisted. The wild excitement from moments ago was completely gone. Only agonizing pain and fury remained. It desperately erupted with fallen power. Six-ring intensity combined with talent activation. Power doubled. It formed a black barrier around its body, trying to seal out the golden flames. But unlike Heiming's black flames, this attack targeted the soul directly. It penetrated everything. Physical barriers were completely useless against it. Only soul-level defensive measures could resist the corruption. The black energy dissipated. Jifei weakly raised her head, looking at that figure standing in the sky, resplendent, impossibly majestic, too brilliant to look at directly. She broke into a smile. You even managed to summon an angel. You never ceased to amaze. Surge after surge of sacred power rained down alongside the golden light. Everyone's wounds began recovering rapidly. Ji Kong, covered in wounds from head to toe, felt a thread of warmth wash over him. The pain in his injuries immediately eased. The tide of the battle reversed itself completely the instant the blazing sun appeared in the sky. Liakru, well read as it was, felt as though all the knowledge it had ever acquired had deceived it. Damn it. Didn't they say infant angels only have support abilities? A single second of eye contact with Diana's majestic golden gaze left it trembling from head to toe. It understood it couldn't afford to drag this out. Otherwise, its soul would be burned to death. So it immediately bellowed, "Go kill that human!" Then black energy detonated. Liakru charged toward Diana, trying to knock her from the sky. Diana's expression remained cold and unmoved. She slowly raised her hand. Countless scorching blades of light appeared around her. They shot toward every fallen, carrying both the force of evolution and burning. The blades of light pierced through Liakru's body in an instant and sent it crashing down from 100 meters in the air to the ground below. In that moment, Diana stood high in the sky, like a divine being who commanded the blazing sun itself. All the fallen gritted their teeth, pierced by the golden blades. Not only were they wounded, the fallen power within them was being purified as well, and the soul burning was accelerating. Damn it, under this blazing sun, we can't fight at all. The look on Leakru's face was ugly. The moment it finished speaking, several figures in gray robes came sprinting in from the distance. Every one of them had 6 rank strength. Seeing the shadow emblem on their gray robes, Jifei recognized them in an instant. Her expression turned furious. The shadow congregation, those damned heretics. At the sight of this, Diana raised a hand. Golden flames erupted in an instant, burning their souls. Blades of golden light materialized and shot toward them. But these cultists chose to absorb the damage and press through. In the blazing sun form, Diana lacked truly devastating killing techniques. Then the blazing sun behind Diana slowly collapsed. The right golden eye began to faintly glow. That cold, lonely moon hung high, and for tens of thousands of meters in every direction, darkness fell in an instant. Pale moonlight illuminated the heavens and earth, carrying a terrifying significance that made every heart seize. Every cultist's expression changed immediately as they looked up. Unlike the blazing sun form, Diana's eyes in this moment were cold and empty. Not a trace of emotion. The sacred aura was gone as well. Around her, 9 ring blades appeared, wreathed in dark red true force of final annihilation, slowly rotating. As Diana's cold, impassive voice rang out, 6 ring blades broke through the air, moving at the extreme limit of speed, and arrived before the 6 cultists in an instant. Their expressions shifted. Leakru instantly shot toward Diana high in the sky. A terrifying surge of black energy condensed into a black spear over 10 meters long and was hurled forward. On the ground, the remaining fallen saw this and immediately charged toward me. Their eyes were full of killing intent. This human had to die. And this angel who commands sun and moon is even more outrageous. She's dominating fallen in the level 50s and 60s. If he's allowed to fully mature, the consequences don't bear thinking about. But Diana immediately recalled 3 of the ring blades with a gesture and directed them toward the charging fallen. The true force of final annihilation coiling around them became even more powerful. A flash of dark red light, and every last fallen was shattered in an instant. Diana then looked back at Leakru still desperately holding on against the ring blades. She slowly raised her hand. Seeing this, Leakru desperately activated the royal throne bloodline within its body and poured out its last reserves of fallen power to break the 3 ring blades apart. Why would such a perfect angel choose to follow his commands? But Leakru quickly let out a cold laugh. As it began to spin, the ground beneath it blazed with light across 100 meters in an instant. This right to summon a throne had originally been intended for the person who awakened an SSS rank talent, to prevent any powerful individual from acting as a guardian. At that moment, countless mysterious runes began to interweave and wind together. Diana's expression turned grave. With one raised hand, the solitary moon shifted, becoming the blazing sun. I immediately sensed that something was wrong. I was just about to turn and run, but in the end I didn't, because the moment the pitch-black grand array appeared, Yang Xiao walked up beside me and patted me on the shoulder. I've been waiting a long time for this alien throne. Don't be afraid. At those words I understood immediately. This had been a carefully laid trap all along. As the summoning array rose into place, a force that shattered the clouds above charged down with terrifying momentum. In just a few breaths, it had arrived here. Looking at the young man standing in the void above, the alien throne slowly spoke. Zhangzhu, you hold the watch at the front lines. Aren't you afraid that the defense line you guard will fall, coming all the way out here? Zhangzhou glanced down and called out, "Still not leaving? You want to get pulverized by the shockwaves?" Even if Zhangzhou's domain could isolate the force, being here would only make them a liability. Seeing this, the alien throne made no move to stop it. With Zhangzhou present, it couldn't touch anyone. As one of the more active throne ranks on the front lines over the last 2 years, the moment we left, a gray domain suddenly expanded outward. Even with the force isolation in place, the shockwaves still shook the earth for hundreds of thousands of meters. The others went on to continue clearing the remaining fallen. I was held back by Yang Xiao. He said, "Chenlin, Just let your summoned beasts go. I thought it over for a moment. It seemed feasible. The silver butterfly had gone a long time without improving. An angel's combat power is no less terrifying than that black wolf's. If she reaches the throne level someday, it's effectively like adding 2 throne-rank powerhouses to humanity's side. With that thought, Yang Xiao continued. The alien clans thought that through a traitor they had uncovered all of humanity's cards. In reality, everything those traitors learned was something we deliberately let out. All of it was designed to let the alien clans grow confident that they had full control, so we could deal them a devastating blow later. He regarded me with the utmost importance and laid out nearly everything without holding back. I had no questions. I explained. Now that I can see the full picture of this contest, since the information couldn't be hidden anyway, humanity simply went with the flow and set a trap. The cost was that certain talented individuals would fall in the course of this plan, and they wouldn't even know they were being used as bait. But this is the nature of war between races civilization. After over 10 full hours of intense fighting, the gray domain far in the distance finally dissipated. A young man stepped through the void, crossing tens of thousands of meters in an instant. Seeing how desperately low his energy had sunk, Yang Xiao immediately stepped forward. Brother Zhang, how did things go? But Diana beside me quietly activated Radiant Sanctity. Zhang Ju's brow furrowed immediately. He said, "Little girl, do you really think you can heal my injuries?" Diana shook her head and said, "My sacred power is already exhausted. The corruption you've suffered is severe beyond measure." My eyes showed confusion. Was this really what it looked like to be a throne? Yang Xiao quickly changed the subject. "Brother Zhang, let me introduce you. This is Chen Lin. He's the alien clan's primary assassination target." Zhang Ju immediately fixed his gaze on me. "So you're the guy who, when fully grown, could pin my head to the ground and pound it?" But Ming instantly sidestepped, clearly very much against the idea. "Brother Zhang, that won't do. This is a crucial ally for the future. We can't let a rift develop." Zhang Ju turned away, hands clasped behind his back, his voice forlorn. "I've accomplished so much for humanity, and yet I can't even ride a wolf." Once we arrived at Yang Xiao's private office, Zhang Ju walked straight to the head seat and made himself completely at home. Yang Xiao asked, "Brother Zhang, how are things at the front line? Have they gotten worse again?" He said in a grave, low voice, "They do it at regular intervals. Every time, at least tens of thousands of fighters are lost. Sometimes even throne ranks fall. Humanity is completely different. Every soldier who dies is a net loss, especially those with hidden classes, talents who would inevitably grow into ninth transcendence powerhouses. The resources owed to you are far more than even this." Exposing my talent now carried its own dangers, but humanity would never stand by and do nothing. The true trump card was my talent, the ability to grant summoned beasts terrifying power. I returned to the mountain range and summoned Ming, a total of 16 level 60 colossal beasts and over 100 level 50 mutant beasts. All attributes increased by 30 points. On the outer perimeter of the mountain range at the Wushan base, mutant beasts had become invisible, and that was not a good sign. It meant they had responded to a call and begun gathering. "I plan to send you to the Wushan base to help with the clearing there." Yang Xiao smiled at the sight. "Everyone else should be ready as well. No time to waste. Let's head out now." Ji Kong came forward eagerly. "Chen Lin, I knew you'd come support us. Still in the infant stage, I assume? Chen Lin, you absolutely cannot do anything strange to her." Some with envy, some with a rather dangerous look. Quite a few cadets were murmuring to each other, "Should we even stay here? The mutant beasts are gathering. An attack is definitely coming." Teammates kept sighing, finding justifications for the retreat they were already planning. Wang Feng gripped his fists tightly and said with a low voice, My family is in Wushan City. Even if the beasts surge, even if it means death, I'm not leaving. Commander Tao Yu of the Wushan base and a group of military officers had long been waiting there. Yang Xiao smiled and said, "Every mutant beast above level 50 in the Balian mountain range has been killed. He did it all." Cao Yu smiled. "Cadet Chen Lin, all of this is yours." After fusing all the materials, the silver butterfly gained 8 layers of the sharpness property, bringing the total, combined with the previous 2 layers, to 10. Now, killing any alien clan member below level 50 in a single strike was no problem at all. At a glance, I spotted a familiar figure, Ushu. Exquisite, fair features beneath long hair, her posture graceful and upright. She had no desire to stay in the dark silence of the summoning space, and I had no intention of forcing her. The energy that colossal beast converted was no longer very much by Haiming's standards. My attribute values at this point weren't far below those of a level 30 hidden class holder. And with that, combined with the silver butterfly's terrifying amplification, I could now destroy a level 40 mutant beast in a single strike. As for level 50 mutant beasts, those required a dozen or more strikes. Facing some of the weaker colossal beasts head-on was no longer out of the question for me at this stage, and my next target was the offensive against Wushan City.